You know, for a series title, Jobless Reincarnation, Rudy is sure be working.
Okay, yeah. If I open the episode, I was going to mention how because last time I called it Peem fiction. Well, apparently YouTube thinks it's P fiction, um,
Oh.
which I thought was funny because I just have hovered over the video and it's like, oh, P fiction. I mean, which to be fair, last time Rudy has probably peed himself while fighting Orsted, so you know.
Oh, dude, that our at least one Spanish speaking viewer is gonna get the translator. He's gonna be like, P fiction? What the what? Urination fiction? Like what was going on? What are they talking about? Hell yeah!
God.
Hell yeah!
Yep.
Well, guys, we're continuing on with Peem fiction. It continues. There is some. We'll discuss it here in a bit, but we'll get to comments first. Which one do I want to start with? That's a mighty good question. I should have had this.
I mean, there was a few on because I messaged you about name pronunciation. Because I was curious about Isolde versus Isolt, and I found out about it's more spelled like Isuelt or Isolt. I imagine it's probably pronounced more like Isolt or Isolde, but because the name Isolde derives from and in fact multiple people also mentioned there's the Tristan and Isolde, which is a modernization of Tristan and Isolt. Or again, going by how it's spelled, I didn't look up how it's actually pronounced. So there was just a bunch of conversation about that. Though again, I still stand by like it's really unless it's like super important. Like in this case, like it's like I guess since both of them are like Tristan and Isolde is a modernization of Tristan and Isolde, then it's like both are acceptable, and the official is going with that one. But like it's just neat. I don't know. Well, that said, the one thing I did was the most curious about. I didn't get anything about was the dragon thing, the split up thing, which I was comparing to Kingsfield and Pokemon, where it's like, why do I keep seeing this? What is this? So unfortunately, no one had any insights about that I saw.
That reminds me of one of Ronan's many comments on his long string. The one that I wanted to mention, because it's so cool when you put it in this perspective, and I wish I would have thought of this, is he says, Lapras was split so evenly in half, even his hatred was. Technique God hates God, and Demon God hates man. That I think is really cool. I don't know why I hadn't thought of that, but that's true. Yeah, when they split up, and literally the hatred is split along with the individual people. Yeah, it's really cool. And then speaking of Laplas, where is it? Okay. So Thomas, yes, you are. I think you're 100% correct. On what your stance on the sparkles around Sylphie and Rudius. Because like the Laplas factor indicates laplessness, and demonic dragon King Laplas hated the man god. So if there's since they're basically the same people, even the name man god should like get a visceral reaction. If you think if they have any Laplas in them, not any Laplas in them rather, but if they are the reincarnation of Laplas.
Yeah, exactly. Like, and they're hiding. Then if they suddenly hear the word man god out of the blue, then it would crack their facade. So it's actually interesting that Rudy's interaction with Orsted might have protected him. Because, then he did what he shouldn't have done, where it's like he reacted to the man god, right? Where, of course,
exactly.
Whether he was a man god apostle or, which I don't know why I'm using the word apostle, it just sounds cooler than disciple as the official is used. My point being that, because, obviously Orsted has a reason to be, up against, they go up against multiple apostles in this reading. But then there's also just, the Laplas possibility, right? So obviously that one, as we know from this reading, especially Orsted has no particular reason to think that Rudy would be Laplas, but just think the same, that prepared him for Perugius in a sense, because he didn't lie, but he did keep quiet about it, he just did, he didn't say it one way, Sylphia was like, man god, what? And Rudy just said nothing.
I don't know.
Yeah.
That reminds me. I think something you said last episode that I remembered it for some reason earlier last week, And I was like, oh, I should have said something there, but maybe I wasn't thinking of it at the time.
Mm-hmm.
I remember you saying something about, because, we learned that not only Rudius, but Sylphie has the, well, I mean, as was even alluded in the exact scene we're talking about, they both have the Laplace aspect inside them. But when Orsted gives the explanation late in volume 15, he only specifies that Rudius has the Laplace aspect insofar as his mana capacity, where Sylphie has it insofar as her green hair. Because I think I remember you saying, like, Sylphie must have a large mana capacity too, because the Laplace aspect is just that she didn't train as much as Rudius. I don't think that's the case. I think her Laplace, because there's different Laplace aspects, and I think just hers gives her the green hair.
I thought it was just like one thing, and then it was more of like it giving them this potential, and Sylphie just didn't exercise that potential as much because he didn't use magic as much or as early as Rudy. That was how I read it.
That's what I took from Orsted's explanation, because Orsted only specifies, like, that's why she's got, like, the green hair, is because she's got a Laplace aspect.
That's 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 right. If it manifests the same way in everyone, then Rudy would also have green hair. So I guess it does affect people differently. Okay, yeah.
But I mean, someone can, if that's not actually the case, someone can correct me if I'm wrong. But I'm pretty sure that's what I got from it. Anyway.
Speaking of corrections, so CC of 5XL had a comment where it's been a year since I finished this part, but can anyone clarify to me how Orsted knows Rudy descendants are fated to kill the man god if Rudy wasn't supposed to be born or it was revealed later in the series? Because and I thought about, I read that, I was like, wait a minute, did I miss something? Or because if I
can
just
answer this.
Okay, let me just explain. Yeah, no, because reading, if I had answered this in reading volume 15, it's like, well, oh yeah, Orsted has this ability to see people's fates and whatever, right? But then we find out that he says that it's actually because he's gone through time loops and he Rudy didn't exist before, so. He shouldn't be familiar with but then I don't know. He also now I'm confused. How are you gonna answer that?
Okay, it's just it's literally you just forgot a scene. So because it's actually the man god. The man god reveals this. The man god explicitly he explicitly says, Rudius,
that's right.
I can see
Rudy told him.
I can see Orsted, one of your descendants, and one other person I don't know is there, and they are killing me.
Yeah, as I was reading it, I was like, okay, yeah, no, I remembered the man god explaining that, but I the comment was focused on Orsted knowing, but it's like, well, Rudy told him, that's why he knows.
Yeah, that's why. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Right. Okay, that makes sense. Yeah. Okay, you're right. Well, because speaking of the Orsted time loop, because obviously earlier, last time, I'm pretty sure I was asking about, Perugia says Orsted's only 100 years old, but Orsted's actually said he's 2,000 years old, and then, I think you, answered that or whatever, and then this reading, it's oh.
Yeah, that one is one of my classic, I was trying to throw you off.
Yeah, no.
I knew the real answer.
Yeah, right, I understood, I get it, but it is what it is.
Fortunately, thankfully, my memory at least did not fail me there. I did remember, ever since we started, that Orsted is in time loops.
Yes.
I think another reason why it was so easy to remember is because ReZero, right? That's literally the MC.
Yeah, well, see, funny that I was going to bring up a Motoharu Mark's comment because the first half of it is talking about why he likes Roxy the most, and a big part of that is because there's a spin-off in which Roxy's the main character and he goes into
Roxy
parallel.
gets serious, yeah.
Yeah, I have not read that, or I think I've heard it mentioned. Maybe I don't know if in the podcast comments or elsewhere, but obviously I haven't read it yet. But he goes into their parallels and why that makes Roxy for him, best girl. And there was some other discussion about that too. But then he also talks about Turning Point 4 and especially how the author of ReZero and Tape and Refugin are friends in real life.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, and they both explored the idea of dark, I brought up the ReZero novel of dark alternate futures for their characters in some way, and I did wonder if because just reason, obviously time loop series have existed before, but since they're friends and if they're these stories are there's people in the comments reacting to things, and that might affect how they think about things, or maybe I'll go more into this, and that spirals off. There's so many potentials for the creative process, and one of the thoughts I had is maybe because of ReZero and his friendship with Tape is maybe he thought of a way to introduce time loops into his story, right? Even if not through Rudy, and obviously doing it differently and making it his own, but still, just a thought I had.
And something that I do know, something apparently that has been, I don't know if it was Refugin or the other guy that's said
Dante.
as much, but one of them has said that like they literally bounce ideas off each other.
Okay, right. That's kind of what Motohar Mark was getting at. So when I read that and I thought of I was thinking about the Orsted time loop and being like, oh, okay, and then so in Ronan's big comment, he also said he made us, because for the final readings I was just going to do it like 3 volumes until the last one, which is going to be 2 volumes, but he suggested doing 24, 25, and 26 as a big finale. Yes. So I'm going to go with that. I agree. I agree with that. We'll do. So next time will be 19, 20, 21. Then we'll be 22 and 23, and then will be the final reading of the main volumes, and then we'll do one more for the extra novels, and then we'll be doing something else that I have to decide because it's going to be my short pick, and I don't know what it is going to be yet. Anyway. What other comments? There's a lot because obviously it's fucking volume 15. Of course, there's a lot of comments. I did like Dreed talking about just how the different wives have different like scopes of knowledge about Rudy's reincarnation, and especially like mentioning Sylphie being suspicious, or with her perspective of like through Nanahoshi, and obviously being afraid of Rudy. I don't know. It's just interesting. I'm curious as to see how it will develop.
Cool. And then I do want to mention, I love Wisteria's comment on that on the another timeline when Rudius isn't there, and how he perceives that Zenith would have accepted in a weird way. Zenith would have still accepted the Aisha and Lilia as to maintain part of the family, and wouldn't have left Paul, also because of Rudius, because in the real timeline their first child is it's a stillborn. It's a stillborn. So and because of that pain of loss, and knowing that Zenith does not want Lilia to be in a situation where she's alone, basically, or she loses a child or something. So maybe in a weird way, no matter if Rudius was there or not, because of him, Zenith still would have accepted Lilia. I thought that was really cool. I was like, oh wow, that's like a super cool. Yeah, thank you for that, Wisteria. I appreciate that. Now that actually I'm thinking about it more, I was just thinking about how because earlier we had to talk about like Paul growing up when he was alone with Norn, right? And I was just thinking about like in this other timeline, in this hypothetical other timeline, Zenith lost Rudy, and in that way she maybe matured a bit in a way that she didn't have to with Rudy. So I was just thinking about that like aspect of like Rudy being an adult in some ways. Like again, with Zen, it's largely hypothetical, but it's still interesting to think about like the fact that like because of him being so mature, like even when Norn and Aisha were born, it's like this is what actual child rearing is. Like he kind of like didn't allow Zenith and Paul to grow up in a sense, because like even like they're like young, they're in their early 20s or something, like they're younger, our age or younger than both of us, right? So in a way they are kids. I don't know, just thinking about that in regards to the family dynamic. I hadn't thought about it before. For sure. And then our Spanish commenter,
Dingle.
Dingle, was talking about the AMV, which I actually have seen. It is a cool AMV. I'd recommend it too, perhaps.
Yeah, I have not seen it.
There's a Turning Point 4 AMV, yeah.
I might look it up. I did, because I only read comments today, so...
I can't wait for that, the second coming of that, whenever the anime actually adapts it. And we get the animated AMV. Wow. That's... Yeah. Literally animated as part of the AMV. Right? You guys know what I'm saying.
What's the word for that? Oxymoron.
Yeah. Did we cover all the?
I think we covered almost all of them. So all the ones I wanted to cover. So.
All right. Cool. Now we can settle into the. Oh, I was gonna say, yeah. I would say that this reading, especially Volume 18 specifically, to me is like the kind of the lowest point post Volume 15. Volume 18 is still engaging. It's still entertaining. It's just not. coming off of volume 17 and what we're about to get in volume 18 or volume 19, it's like, it's just kind of like, it's just a lot. I mean, it's just a lot of Persona and Linnea. Like that's the only thing to say. But anyway, yeah, we'll get to that. Volume 16 basically just a setup for all the, and it's good setup because we need it for volume 17 to hit as hard as it does. And then obviously volume 18 is a little bit of a departure. Like we're back. Mm-hmm. Volume 18 is very similar to like volume 13, and it's very,
it's like a lower stakes slice of life breather before shit picks up again, right? Because It's funny, because there's someone on Twitter who's been they were the one responding to my earlier volumes as Eki as a peak fiction, but then when I posted 18, they go utter dog shit, and it's like. Like I still liked it. I did think it was bad, but it was definitely like, I can see where the weakest volume in a little while at least, so
for sure.
And I can see that stinging even more after fucking what's it called, volume 15, and like the story's changed now, so but it, like, I still liked it, especially I think the Julie stuff in particular was really good.
That was really, and especially with what's coming next with Zanoba stuff. It's like
it's kind of setting up the next. It's not directly setting it up, but it's building up like aspects, like with Julie especially, like felt like I was going right into that in a sense. So But anyway, rolling it back a little bit to volume 16.
A lot of it. Rolling back a lot of it. We're going to the beginning of volume 16, where, Zanoba is afflicted with the Orsted curse. They had a scuffle. Orsted didn't even lift
he just went to go back to magic armor, and Orsted just it didn't work out very well. The I don't know, the way that the because obviously also the way Orsted talks about how the man god has sort of the inverse curse to Orsted, where everyone inherently hates and distrusts Orsted, but the man god is unconditionally trusted and loved, and Rudy just happens to be immune to it because he's not not of this world or whatever reason it is. Well, no, because Lucy is obviously immune to it too, so it's just something about his, I guess, nature. Actually, I haven't I thought about that before, because again, I just assumed it was because he's not of this world, but then because Nanahoshi has that same ability too, but then it also affects his bloodline, so it's not quite as clear cut. Okay, I'll just leave that there. You're being questionably silent, so I'll just leave it there.
So the two most important things that come out of this conversation are, one, Tristina Purple Horse is the one thing that Orsted's like, we could use her in my next plan. And then we cover it's a really cool, and I love that. I love how, like, in the previous reading, we're getting so much out of Rudius's account of his other life, basically. And it is something that we literally read. It's a part that Rifujin writes in
I think there's some parts
where it's like, I was helped by a big chested girl, and it's like, okay, we don't care. Like, what matters here is that Sylphie is dead and Rudius burned everyone to the ground. But with Orsted, he's like, that's the one thing that is like the most interesting. Basically, he's like this right here, this I can use this. I think that's really, really cool, because that is like literally the most unimportant thing to us, the viewer, as we're reading it. In volume 14 or volume 15 rather. But I just think that's really, really cool. And so we get that set up for Rudius's next mission, and then also the Guardian Beast. He's gonna get one.
Yep. I do like how that turns out, because the way he like accidentally summons Aramanfi, he's like, "What the fuck? No, send me back, send me back. This is why would you do this?" And then later he goes there, and Silverill's like subtly mad at him, and he's like, I didn't mean to do that. And then he summons then the actual Guardian Beast, which is just has the, like, we found out it's Destiny later, and why it's so important, but it's just like it just acts like a big giant puppy, and so Rudy just kind of treats it like that way, and I feel like we as the audience see it that way too. But like obviously so many characters like Orsted's like, oh yeah, fucking Perugius' spirits don't stand a fucking candle to that to
the fucking sacred beast. Yeah,
it's like what? And then he's just like that's just like, yeah, I don't know. It's just really funny, and
it is, yeah.
It's great.
And I love the little like sneak peek into who the hero of the story is. Whenever we get Leo just coming in on under Roxy's skirt, basically. That's like his first action is like after like he reunites with Rudius, he's like, oh hey, it's you, and then he goes and he's like, hey Roxy, what you got in that womb over here, girl?
Yeah, just good, silly little guy, good boy.
He's a good boy. He's a good boy.
And also when he first summons him, his response of just being like, isn't he like really important to Joldia? I'll pretend not to. I pretend not to see it. It'll work itself out. And of course, yeah, the Sacred Beast has authority, so he's just like, it'll be fine.
Yeah, and then like Ghislaine's reaction, she's like, oh well, like I mean, he Sacred Beast says he needs to be here, and so they should be fine with it.
Yeah, exactly, right? And of course, sure enough, they get it worked out later, because they get the letter, and it's like, the Sacred Beast is missing! Code Red! Code Red!
So funny. It's so funny.
And it's like, oh, well, shit.
Yeah. Yeah, no, so Leo is part of the family, and it's pretty lit. That reminds me, you see, because our Monfy scene is really, really funny, but what's even more funny is like Rudius, like to Rudius, like this is like a surprise and everything, but it's like he's interacted so much with Pergius and his familiars. It's like, oh, it's it's a little bit of mishap. Get it squared away. It's like, oh, sorry guys, I failed. And then everyone's face is just like, that's one of Pergius's 12. They're like sitting there like mouth agape. They're like, what the fuck, Rudius? like, how is this not crazy to you, bro? That was Aramonfi the Bride. And Rudius like, oh yeah, sorry guys.
Oh yeah, I guess it is, huh?
Yeah, it's like, I fucked up. Yeah, my bad. That's like all he's got to say.
But
they're just sitting there like, what the fuck? That's cool. It's funny.
There's also just some good like stuff with Eris, I guess. Like we have well, first when he was talking with because he was talking with Orsted and like, I just thought it's funny the way he's like, oh, Luke fell in love with Eris at first sight. I guess I can't blame him for being misled by her appearance. And it's like, bro, that's your wife. Why are you talking about her like that?
Come on, bro. Come on.
And then, of course, later, Luke does, in fact, meet her and fall in love at first sight. And she just knocks him the fuck out.
Yeah. Unfortunate for my boy. Unfortunate.
Rip Bozo.
Rip Bozo. And then he wakes up and he's like, Rudius, you must tell me who this... And he's like, that's my wife, bro. And he's like, And he surprisingly takes it well. He's like, first come, first serve, brother. It is what it is. I'm too late.
Also, I did go back I did go back and reread the Volume 3 extra chapter because I figured around this point because I figured that he was going to be, important in this volume. And I was like, well, specifically, I forgot how he died exactly because, like, he wasn't in the anime. And I remember noting his right? Because I brought that up before, and I'm pretty sure he wasn't in the anime. Or did I just forget him?
No, he is in the anime, but he doesn't have the focus that he has. Like all the shit where he's like in the bathroom and then he overhears that plot to assassinate Ariel. That's not in the anime.
So
he just dies in the anime.
He does. Does he have his line to her about like his hopes that for her taking the throne? Because I could have just forgotten that. So
don't remember, honestly.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, because I just wanted to read it because obviously the as talked about, it's like he did have a strong fate, but he still died in the teleportation incident. And I was trying to remember like how he died, and it was a Terminator board that just showed up because of the teleportation incident, and I guess the Terminator board had a stronger destiny. No, what I was going to say is
what I took from that, and I don't even know if this is explicitly stated by Orsted, but Sylphie probably has a stronger fate, right? So so her fate kind of overrode his, and so he died, kind of thing. I guess, right? That's what I took from it anyway.
Yeah, because for some reason I was like, I couldn't remember how he died, so I was like, wait, if there was like an assassin attack, that probably wouldn't kill him if his destiny was strong. And it was like, no, it was the Terminator boy, which of course was the teleportation incident or displacement incident in general, just being the backlash of Nanahoshi summoning, which is unique to this timeline, I believe. All that. I just wanted to reread it to make sure I was set before going in, and I don't think I got anything major by doing it, but I wanted to bring it up that I did reread it because I don't want to be lost.
Yeah, I love. Okay, this is one of my favorite motifs just in fiction in general. I have the same thing with one very important character in my own story. I love characters who die very early on and become very important, and they get so much cool development post mortem.
Mhm.
I love this character motif. Itachi is like another example from
Oh
Naruto.
yeah.
This is like I love when stories do this. It's like it's just one of my favorite story motifs. I don't know, nothing more to say other than that. But like it being here with Derek and Mushoku Tensei, I was loving every bit of it. I was like, Derek's a
Mhm.
cool fucking character. I like
No,
this
I
shit.
think I think it's good, and I'll talk about that later. But I was gonna say, so one thing I'm glad is getting rectified in the next volume is Roxy keeps getting left out of the story.
Oh, you saw
Which,
the cover, I guess. You saw the cover.
yeah, no, I saw, and of course it's like it deals with the Sharia kingdom where she was in Pax,
Yeah.
like it's stuff she was directly related to previously,
You know what's
right?
crazy, Crafts, that you're saying that because I literally looked at the cover again last night, and the first thought I was like, oh, that's cool that Rifujin does this because he was with Eris and Sylphie this entire time, and now he's going up solo with Roxy. Oh, that's cool that he's splitting it up like that. It's kind of
Yeah.
like what One Piece does with we have the Dressrosa crew, and then immediately we got the
Yes.
Whole Cake crew.
Right, no,
Where they
which I
split up,
think
yeah.
when you have such a large cast, I think it's very natural to like split them up like that. Like Bleach also does it with like Cueco Mundo to Fake Karakura Town, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, but like Roxy just like, oh, I don't get to go to Perigus' magic castle. Oh, okay, I'll just go back to school. And then this volume, it's like, oh, I'm too pregnant to go to the labyrinth. I guess I'll just stay home. The library labyrinth where I'm a fucking magic teacher. Books would be pretty cool. So it's just like, okay. And then she also doesn't go to, which obviously is like, yeah, she's like all this stuff happens while she's pregnant, so it's just But I guess that it's Eris's turn to be homebound pregnant in the next.
Yeah,
volume,
that's what I was
so.
just about to say. And then, like, in a very odd turn of fate, like the one that's always the most gung ho is like way too pregnant at this point to go. So yeah, that's the only thing that can ever keep her down is like late stage pregnancy.
And just world building wise, I like the library of labyrinth as a concept, just because it
Yes.
the world doesn't have a printing press, but the world does have like very incredible all seeing demon eyes, and so it's just like
Yes,
having a
it's
demon
so
who just
cool,
has
isn't
good
it?
eyes and just copies all the
Yeah.
books, and it's just a really cool idea.
I
And,
love, dude. I cannot wait to see this animated. I want to see how it looks because like how it just looks up at the ceiling the entire time and writes.
Uh-huh.
It's got the tentacles. It's such a cool. Yeah,
Oh,
it's just such
and
a
the
cool
little
section.
the little commune with Rudy, where it's like, you got me an interesting book, so I'll give you a wish, and then he uses that to find the book Orsted mentions, and it's just like a good little and of course that all gets fucked up, but even
Yeah,
so,
not even that, but like the perspective that the
Oh, yeah,
demon
yeah.
gives is really cool. It's like I've never seen a book that is a sequel to a book from the future. Like I've never seen that ever. And you're right now writing like the sequel to that book that your future self gave you. So it's really fucking cool. So you caught my eye, literally. So no, it's I was like reading that. I was like, that I didn't think about it that way, but it's kind of true. What Rudius is doing right now is kind of like you can look at it as like a sequel with his journal right now. Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah, and also like him as just this like entity of being like. He's a real life archive.org in Mushoku Tensei. He's just like the greatest crime they have is fucking up the library. Like it literally all starts because Luke drips some tears onto the book and muddles the ink, and it's like, oh, you just fucked everything up. And that just snowballed into just don't go to the library again. It's probably for the best.
Don't do it. Yeah.
Sad.
Sag indeed. What other thing did I want to say? Well, I wanted to go back because we were kind of skipping ahead a little bit.
Yeah, well,
Sure. I mean, I guess we can start with like the lead up to them actually going to the library.
Yeah.
I mean, isn't it just like a conversation between him and Orsted? Like it's like, hey, we need shit on Derek. It's like go to the library. Or wait, no. Retarded. I am an idiot. I am actually no. That's not what happens. What happens is Ariel needs an answer. Okay, that's the most important thing about all this. Is she needs her answer for Pergius to get the alliance with Pergius. That's the most important thing. That's what this entire fucking book is about. She needs that answer.
Yes.
Goddamn, what? I'm surprised neither of us have mentioned it yet.
Well, I'm waiting until later when she actually confronts Pergius. Pergius, yeah. So I don't know. I corrected myself. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, which is something that was established in the previous reading in Volume 14, is that I wish, because he's such a cool character, and like even though he's just like a historical character, but the little we know about him paints him as a really cool character. I forgot the king's name, the Ashram.
Or the fucking Gaius, or Gonius, or
whatever his name is.
It's spelled Gaunis. So
I want to say
Gaunis,
with the way he's described, and we even get more from his own personal journal.
Yes,
he's really reminiscent of Rudius, and how like the guy is kind of a fuck up in a lot of ways, but he finally found his way in this very specific instance and became great, right? And I don't know, the entire time I was reading anything about him, I was like, man, he's kind of a lot like Rudius. Like,
okay, I didn't think about that, because I was more just thinking about how like there's this like, the way history remembers him, and the way like the people who knew him remember him, or the way which is by the way just like Rudius too, which is because sure. Everyone's like, oh, the Quagmire, he's so scary, but then you hear Sylphie's like, well, Rudius is surprisingly a weakling. Like, he keeps grabbing my ass in public. He should stop that.
Because Sylphie has literally said before, when Rudius is like, anytime he's uneasy, Sylphie always says like, you're surprisingly, kind of weak, kind of like weak spirited,
And the way several times. In Volume 18, like, you keep getting new people coming to school, and like when they hear the name Rudy, they go like, oh, but when they see Rudy, they don't react. Or fucking Isolde, when she sees Luke, and it's like, man, your husband sucks, Eris. And then he's like, oh, who's this handsome hunk over here? She looks at Rudy, and it's like, like, just seeing him, he doesn't give off the I don't know, the like versus. That's like an inverse, I guess. Instead of like we're hearing about like Rudy and being like, wow, this guy sucks, but then seeing him and be like, oh, okay. So I just thought that was funny in contrast.
He's just a dude.
He's just a guy. But especially like because she talks about like with her like there's the play, and the message of the play being like power beyond yourself will be the end of you, and like apparently it's like a romanticized version of like Kishirika and Alderbahn and all that, I don't know, or all that stuff, or maybe which is actually not even accurate. That's not fun. Yeah, no, that's why I said romanticized. And history changes. Though that said, I forget why she said it. But Ariel had it does feel good to relieve yourself in front of people, and it's like, Ariel, what is your? And then it comes back later when she comes back.
It comes back a couple of times actually, because not like with Orsted, like she actualizes the line. she's like, oh God, and then she's like, oh God. And it's like, oh Dragon God, and then
God,
but then. And then, like, later with Luke, she makes a comment. She's like, but I just happen to be in the mood for a little bit of groping in front of, like, all the aristocrats, all the fucking important... It's just like, Ariel never changed. Oh, and then even later on with, like, Rudy, she's like, honestly, Rudios, if you wanted to tonight, you could probably bed me. And it's just, like, in front of fucking Sylphie, too. She's
the threesome!
Hell yeah. Threesome part 2.
Because I mean, obviously, like there was the chapter in season 2, episode 0 with Ariel making moves on Sylphie, but ultimately not being for her. Yeah. So yeah,
as one of our commenters said, that's one of the ones we skipped. She is definitely bi, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or that was part of Ronan's big comment. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, other good moments. When they I remember after they got Derek's diary, and Ariel and them were reading it, and Rudy was sort of like observing Sylphie as Ariel's ally and just realizing how much she's grown, basically, and how much she accomplished without him, and just there's the fact that they were separated because so that she wouldn't get too dependent on him, and Paul making the right move, which he did recognize back then, but him really like seeing the results of that on this adventure with Sylphie was really nice.
And more respect from Paul, more respect for Paul. I mean, I was gonna say, what was I gonna say? Fuck. That's
go ahead.
No. I'm like trying to remember. You keep going.
No, I was going to move on to the Perugius Ariel conversation. Mm-hmm. So, anything you have to say from before that, or
something.
Oh, there was another one I forgot to mention.
Something that I wanted to mention, is in the web novel, and I didn't remember this, but I went to the wiki before we started talking just to refresh, and I did not remember this, and it shocked me. So in the web novel, Ariel is actually able to come up with the answer to the question during their conversation on the floating fortress. So you remember when like Rudius is trying to jog her memory about like, hey, what about name all the figures that made an impression on you and all your underlings, tell me all about them. And then when it finally comes to Derek, by talking about Derek, she actually comes to her answer in the web novel, and then immediately she goes to Pergius, and that scene happens. So actually, in the light novel, all of this like library labyrinth stuff is all additional content and better.
No, that's really good.
It's really cool.
It gets some more world building stuff, and then you get the them having like, because Ariel just only knowing so much about Derek before having to like and then her learning more about him through the diary, and that sort of connecting to that dead person, and that's really cool. But I was gonna say I forgot to mention how because Rudy was talking to Sylphie about Luke, because there was the high suspicion that he was a man god apostle, and Sylphie saying that like, if Luke tries to harm Her Highness, I will kill him, and like, oh shit. It was just good to see her resolve, I guess, but also like, Luke better watch out.
Sylphie's a badass. Is the thing. It's like all of Rudius's fucking wives are badasses. It's like crazy.
Yeah. Well, because my stance on it just personally is that like Luke's kind of a bum. Like he's not actually like I mean, he's probably like he survived, so he's strong enough, but like relative to like all the other characters around him, he's a fucking bum, right?
True.
Like the man god gambled wrong. He picked a bum. Like, I'm sorry, he's the Yamcha of the group. Like, let's be real.
So
like
funny.
Rudy beat him with like just the demon eye, and he's not even that. He can't even actualize his mana aura, like battle aura. Like he still just beat Luke easily. Like, come on. Just saying.
Just say, you know what? Luke is kind of a bum. It's like, yeah, true. That is definitely true. But at the very least, he's a good character. Hey,
I like him, but and especially obviously especially in the next volume. But
But Library Labyrinth, really just cool stuff, fun stuff all around too. Just getting like Eris being Eris, like, ooh, wow. But then when she's in there, she's like, man, this is like fucking boring. What the fuck? I told you, like, this isn't really what a labyrinth typically is like, Eris. I'm sorry. Ghislaine being a badass like usual. Mm-hmm. She's just
their caution was also just again like Rudy being so cautious always, even though he's so strong, and that sort of like extending to the rest of the group by virtue of him more or less being their leader. Was just good. And
then. I mean, speaking of the demon who rules the library labyrinth, that whole sequence, of events, like, is so cool. Like how Rudius is like writing in his journal, and then he just notices like, oh, when I'm writing, he's writing, and I'm gonna erase, he erases. It's like, wait, is he copying in the moment? Is he copying down what I'm writing right now? And then he erases, and then he writes hello, and then he does the introduction, and then all of a sudden the eye is like. He stops doing anything altogether, but then the tentacle comes, and it's just such a cool fucking. It's like, oh shit! It's like it's nothing much is happening, but I was like on the edge of my seat. I was like, oh shit! It's such a cool way to communicate.
Because I was like, oh shit! He's talking to the slime, the fucking the labyrinth boss, I'm so glad
Rifujin added this shit and made it a little bit more difficult for Ariel to reach her answer. It definitely does in this way too. Not only do we get a lot of cool additional shit, but it does feel a little bit, more earned this way.
Exactly. Yeah. Because just thinking back, like, so when does it happen, like, chronologically, like with the Ariel? Does it happen in that volume?
So
of her sitting there?
So in the web novel, chapter 5 is where Rudius is at the table in the floating fortress talking to Luke. Sophie and Ariel.
That part.
Then,
okay, gotcha.
Yeah,
right.
yeah. And Ariel's recounting all the people that have served and died for her and all this stuff. And then Derek comes in at the very end when they talk about Derek. And then after discussing Derek at the finale part of that, Ariel's like, "I have my answer." And then so we skip chapter 6 and 7 and go right to 8 in the web novel, basically. And then she just goes and talks to Pergius. Yeah.
Huh. That is cool. Yeah.
Yeah. Very, 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 very cool. And Derek is a really, like I said, Derek Redbat is postmortem goated for sure. Because
I think it took me to volume 17 to notice the, like, oh right, they're like descended from the noble families of this region. That's why they're like color animal.
Yeah, purple horse, red bat, gray rat.
Yeah, right. It took me a minute.
Yeah, it's cool. It's cool.
Ariel talking to Pergius.
Oh, I was gonna say it is kind of cute,
yeah.
like the scene where like Luke and Ariel are like getting emotional over Derek, and then Sophie's like, "Oh man, I don't know what's going on." But then we get the cool resolution. She's like, "Hey, just tell me all about Derek when you guys can." And they're like, "Oh, we'd be happy to." It's like, man,
yeah,
she's got some good ass friends, man. That's Sophie. That's my girl right there, man. Fuck yeah. But then of course Luke, being the jobber as you were saying, fucks it up for everyone. But then again, he is the man God's apostle, so it's kind of what he's there to do.
Which is interesting because I that specifically I feel like that's like. The man god told him to cry a lot, where it's like, no, as we find out what the man god did tell him later, at least, most of it. So that's just Luke being Luke, even though he is also the man god's apostle.
That's him being a bum. He's such a bum too that Ariella has got to like defend herself at the end of that one fighting sequence. I'm sorry, this is too much Luke slander. I like Luke. He's a good character. I don't dislike Luke at all.
Good characters can also be bums. Chad loses a lot. He's still good in Bleach,
I agree, yes.
So anyway, so yeah, what are your thoughts on the Pergius Ariel's answer, basically?
Dude, this is the perfect depiction of, I think, Rifujin. He's just a goat writer. It's like Pergius is such a cool character because Ariel gives this resolute answer, and it's like super cool, like her resolve, because she now. It's not necessarily she gained so much going to the labyrinth and understanding what Derek truly wanted for her. And she gained not only, like, now she knows this is the way I'm going to rule 100%. This is who I am as a ruler. So even whether she's got Pergius's support or not, she's already gained so much from this journey. So when she goes to Pergius, when she literally says, if you can't accept my answer, I don't want you anyway. Because I want the support of someone.
Yeah.
It's like, no, she truly means that. This is not bravado because she's already gained that much. And then Pergius's response when Rudius asks, like, is that really the right answer? He's like, nope, that's not it. But you know what? It's what Janius. I did actually look at his fucking name because he's a cool character too. It's what he said makes a good ruler, and I respect it. I respect his word. And also, Ariel was resolute. She didn't lie to me, so I accept her. And it's like so cool. It's like, yeah, of course she's not going to give the exacto answer of like what kind of king he was, because he was his own king. He had his own way. And so, but the fact that he still acknowledges her, it's like, this is goated. This is goated shit. I love this shit. This is just the best chapter in the novel.
Because Ariel's answer was, someone who could fulfill the wishes of the dead, and Gaius's answer, or Gaius's answer was to be someone that people were willing to follow. And I think what's really interesting about the way it resolves is that Perugius kind of deciding to go in with Ariel kind of fulfills both of their desires, because Ariel has become a ruler that people wish to follow, but he's also fulfilling Gaius's will, the will of the dead, right? The will of the dead wishes.
True.
So he ends up, even though that wasn't the answer he expected, he ends up following Ariel's will in listening to Gaius's will, and they kind of work the two ideas work together and both bolster Ariel through Perugius, right? And I just thought it was neat.
That is
way.
really, I love that perspective. I hadn't thought of that. How they both, through coming to that coming to that resolution.
It came to me while I was trying to go to sleep, and I left a note for myself so I could write it down for later. Because I also thought it was really good.
yeah. Boy, yeah. Goated observation. Wow, that is super cool. Yeah. Damn.
Yeah.
Great scene. Great scene.
Yeah, no, it's really good. It's just perfect. It just works really well, and it leads to some also good shit when fucking Prometheus comes in volume 17. It's the coolest shit ever, but we'll get to that.
We'll fucking get to it, man. We'll get to it.
Dude can make an entrance. Let's say that.
Hell yeah, that's the boy. There's one more chapter in the. In volume 16,
yes.
I don't really. What the fuck goes on?
It's basically them building up to the next volume of them, because they're talking about going to Asura, the Asura kingdom, and all the Rudy was saying we need to take the back secret roads, and where they're going, we should teleport straight there, because obviously Rudy has the ulterior motive of finding Triss, and then the circles are all gone, and everyone's kind of suspicious of Rudy because it's he now they have to go through his plan, and obviously they know he's working with Orsted, so it's he's very powerful, so what if he got in the way, right? So it's which of course ends up bolstering Luke's position as the man God's whispering in his ear and telling him Rudy isn't to be trusted, right? So and
then a little bit of funny stuff at the end too, where when Rudius announces that he'll be leaving again for a little while. Norn and Aisha are oh well, I guess we gotta prepare for another wife coming in the fray, because every time he leaves, what happens. And then Rudius is he wants the princess, but he's I don't got any credibility. I can't even say anything for myself.
I mean, hey, you already got red, blue, green, you got Ariel yellow, and Tristina purple horse. You just keep adding to the fucking color palette.
True, actually true. Also, yes, at the very end, Rudius is spending quality time with Roxy, and they're trying to think up a name. I don't remember what the guys, and then that's when they come up with Lara, which...
Yes. I thought it was funny, because... did you ever play Kirby?
Okay. Well, wait. Before that...
Okay, go ahead. There's a lot in this chapter. It's a long chapter. Go ahead.
I need to ask you, okay?
Go ahead.
The first name Rudius thinks up before Lara is Lola, but then he thinks, Lola makes me think of a woman trying to find love. Is that a One Piece reference to Lola in One Piece?
There is that, huh?
Or is that
possible.
A motif? Is that something that Oda is taking inspiration from? There's a character in some work of fiction named Lola that's always trying to find love.
I don't know, actually, because I can't think of very many other Lolas, but I'm also obviously he references stuff I don't know, right? So that's maybe
he definitely he's Japanese. He definitely knows One Piece. He probably read a lot of them. So I mean, I thought it was is this a Lola? Is this a Lola from One Piece reference?
Mm-hmm. But I also just, part of me is I guess sometimes you write references just for you or for a more niche audience, so maybe, but because Lola isn't the most popular, recognizable One Piece character. I can totally see people at least watching through Thriller Bark, and then a while later just kind of forgetting if she didn't show up again, forgetting, or what didn't be, she didn't actually show, in the anime I don't think she has shown up again, though she has in the cover story, right? So I can see someone forgetting her name, but relative to obviously everyone knows the main important characters, so maybe I'll just say maybe. I really don't know,
because I don't
know
who else mentioned a lot in Whole Cake Island, so
for sure, yeah. But my point being is that as far as references go, I feel a lot of the ones at least that I've recognized are very blatant, and your references, they're not super in-depth references like that, is what I'm trying to say, right? If you you'd probably recognize a Metal Slime if you played a Dragon Quest game, right? Or any references Doraemon and Sazai-san characters by name, and they're all main characters, so that's more where Lola relative to One Piece is much more relatively obscure, right? Again, if you've gone through One Piece, you know better, but if you have more of a passing relation with One Piece, you're much less likely to be familiar with her, so I feel those kind of references are but he also references BioShock twice, so I don't know what I know, or so what the fuck do I know, I guess, so yeah. Anyway, What I was gonna say about the name is because he talks about he specifically mentions because let's see Lara because the two names Laura or Lala he made a hold on there was he did a reference during that right Adventure of Lolo so that is a like sort of a puzzle game but I imagine most people are familiar with Lolo and Lala because they're bosses in Kirby. I don't know if you played like Kirby Superstar, but there's like a blue and a pink. They push like blocks and Gordos and stuff, and you beat them up. And I don't think very many of the Adventures of Lolo games were released outside of Japan. So I just was like, oh, that's okay. I recognized it because I found out about that franchise by poking in and learning that they like because I recognized them from Kirby playing it as a kid. So anyway, I just thought it was just another reference that I clocked. But yeah,
references in that sequence. Yeah.
That chapter had a lot of good stuff though. Because it was also really long. Like, hold on, let me check. It was
pretty much a lot of the chapters in this novel were very long.
It was almost 40 pages, which makes up like I think it might have been the longest chapter in the reading.
Because chapter 7 was also really long too because it was the entire labyrinth.
Chapter 7 was only 37 pages, so it's a little bit it is a little bit longer than chapter 7, but it's still the long. Chapter 9 was still the longest. Because so one thing they talk about like the fighting god and how his armor was better than the magic armor, which I thought was neat because I thought that the magic armor was just like a very interesting like exploration of the mechanics of the setting, but I also like how it's like as smart as these characters are and how like Rudy has these new perspectives. It's like in this case it's like no, it already existed in the setting and the world. And of course, the fighting god was probably one of the man god's strongest apostles. So, and apparently, because I remember Orsted, pretty sure Orsted said don't fight the fighting god and Orsted and one other god.
The top three, the top.
So the technique god. So don't fight other Laplace for the fighting god and Orsted. So okay, gotcha. So which implies that they're all still out there. Because,
where the fuck is the technique guy? Where's the other Laplace? Where the fuck are you, motherfucker?
Yeah.
Because he's also the guy, cool. I mean, because the funny thing about that lore, too, is like, the technique god is the one who created the 7 world powers.
Yes.
And Man God does say early on that, like, oh, yeah, the technique god is number 1, but Orsted's stronger than him. Like, when Orsted goes all out, like, he's stronger than technique god. And I always thought, like, the technique god literally, like, technique god probably, like, knew that, but he was like, I made this list. I'm going to put myself number 1. That's just kind of funny.
And I also around this time, I think I got the implication that Orsted might have been reincarnated multiple times or something. So I was kind of getting understanding of the time loop, but I still was I was off base. It would be a little later until I understood that. And then
anyway,
go ahead. I was going to bring up the Cliff and Zanaba, but if you have anything before that you want to talk about.
No, because I was gonna talk a little bit about the extra chapter in this volume.
Oh, that's I still have more from this chapter. So
okay, yeah.
But yeah, so you have Cliff, like Rudy trying to talk with Cliff and Zanapa and make them because obviously they're potential targets for the man god's influence.
Them. Yeah.
Well, and also because he eventually has to like kind of lie to them about like like getting Cliff to help him with Orson and stuff because of the man god's powerful influence and Orsted's curse. But also like the bit where I'm pretty sure it's Cliff who says like because he's like, evil god, you mean the panties and the blood-stained cloth? And he's like, I will kill you where you stand. I will murder you.
And they do disparage my god.
And they do finally address the fact that Cliff and Eris met, and it turns out to be like, I'm not in love with her anymore. I'm in love with Elenilise, and he doesn't. Obviously, there's they both understand, like based on Eris's personality, she probably doesn't actually remember Cliff, so there's really no reason to arrange another meeting or anything because it was just super important to him, but nothing to her. It was a Tuesday.
And then it turns into a massive bros night out, drinking and researching the gauntlet. But apparently they actually make a finished project. despite how drunk they were, they got a product out of it.
Yeah.
And Rudius is like tinkering with it when he wakes up. He's like, oh, it's like pretty handy. This is what we were doing, I guess. No, it's cool. And then Rudius is like, man, that guy's not out, man. That was cool. I want to do that again. It's like, yeah, that's your boys, man. It's your best buds, man. These motherfuckers would die for you. You know this now.
Yeah.
From your fucking future stuff. These are like the best kind of friends you could ever have. They will literally like, motherfucker. Cliff betrayed his homeland for this guy in the timeline.
Yeah.
Zanoba stuck with him till the bitter end and died defending his home. You know, like, yeah, these are the best friends you can ever have, man. Like, yeah, spend some time with them, Rudius. Hell yeah.
And then at that home, the wives are getting drunk.
Yeah.
Well, not all of them, but like, and then they have like Lilia and Aisha coming in, and just everyone talking. Like Lilia talking about baby Rudy being terrifying.
Yeah. And then she later actually gets drunk and then starts wailing about how Rudius is not wanting to fuck his little sister.
Dude, like Lilia she's so interesting because it's like she has her like inferiority complex because she is like a servant, right? But she also wants Aisha to like she herself continually looks down on her position and just sees herself as, and always has, right? Even though, you know, she's always, by like Paul and Zenith and everyone, she's been treated as, you know, another wife who happens to be, you know, a maid. But like, so she's kind of like pushing that on Aisha, but then also she wants Aisha to basically do what she did and marry Rudy and have sex with him out of wedlock and and raise her status in the. But so she's a little messed up, I guess, and it also like reframes, I guess, like Aisha's flirtatiousness, right, where it's like, oh, it is her mom's influence, or at least partly. I mean, because she does also admire Rudy, interesting additions to her character, I guess, And then I also love Sylphie being like, I want to make Rudy squeal in bed, where she's just like talking about getting drunk and talking about how, you know, this, like, yeah, I don't know, just the fact that they've had, like, you know, because I think the 26 Grey Rat house meetings, and I guess like the implication being that like it's you know, the people who aren't Rudy in the house meeting when he's not there to figure shit out, right? And like, you know, Sylphie and Roxy like doing that, and the, you know, like this is because I think this is the first one with Eris, and they also mention how you know, because the Grey Rat has also had various, you know, wives that, or, you know, taking multiple wives isn't too unusual, right? So Eris kind of like understood that already, and I don't know, it was nice. It was just a nice scene.
Yeah, it was, and then I just love the little detail about how like a lot of the time like Sylphie is just like fondling Eris's boobs, but Eris does not. She's just munching like while Sylphie is just groping. I thought it was really funny.
Doesn't care.
Yeah, like no. Just it's funny. It's their dynamic is really cute, and we see a little bit more of the. Well, we hear a little bit more about it and see a little bit more about like their dynamic. Like Sylphie is, even though she's 2 years younger than Eris, she actually acts as like the older sister, and their dynamic functions like that. And we see it even later too, where Sylphie is like admonishing Eris for like ruining the mood between Rudius and her. And Eris is like, well, you're being sneaky. He's like, I'm not being sneaky at all. Like, I'm doing it in front of you, bitch. You want to have a threesome right now? Let's go. Let's get the threesome on. Eris is like, no, that's embarrassing. So it's just funny because like this just goes to show Sylphie is a badass, man. Like, she is such a badass that like when it comes to her dynamic with Eris, like she is like the bigger dog. Like she will put her foot down and be like, all right, let's go then, bitch. I ain't sneaking, threesome, bitch. And Eris is like, no, please.
Yeah, no, they're good. They're good. And then no, yeah, because like even Rudy thinking about how just like Eris is embarrassed, but it's like, I mean, like when, you know, she treats him like folds him like a pretzel in bed. But I guess like, I don't know, she doesn't want to do it with other people.
He's like embarrassing for you. You put me into some downright fucking insane positions. Like,
so yeah, funny. Very. I do wonder if that's going to change. But you know, maybe.
Oh, you mean like if they're gonna?
Oh, the or foursome.
Okay.
So yeah.
We shall see, I guess.
Silence.
We shall see. I don't know. I'm not going to say yes or no. It's a question that I can't.
I know. I understand. I understand. That's why I'm making fun of it or poking fun at it. Anyway. So yeah, extra chapter is something more new to you as well, I imagine.
Yes, all these extra chapters are. It's one of the cool things about reading the light novels.
Yeah.
Ghislaine is a cool character. She's also a very funny character because like. Fucking Elena Elise is like trying to talk to her, and like Ghislaine's like and she's looking at me and then like the description of her like being like, oh yeah, and she's even though she's older, she's still pretty attractive, for a lady, she is, but no one would dare approach her because she is she's the Black Wolf Sword King. So
yes,
no, that's too much for anyone. But apparently, and we're getting the information even more so. Like the only one that she wasn't too much for was Paul because he's good in bed. that's the reason why. And it's a really cool little little lore information that like at one point it was even more than that. Like Ghislaine had legitimate feelings for Paul. But since Paul was an absolute dirtbag, obviously, that
soured like milk soured. in the abandoned.
It's really cool information to hear that like at one point Ghislaine was kind of like head over heels for Paul, and from Paul's perspective, he's just being a lecherous bastard taking advantage of her, of her, and then even like the TMI shit where it's like on one of those nights where he was taking advantage of her being in heat. Elise is like, oh, I'm gonna join in. Like it's like this epic threesome they share. So yeah, there's a lot, but like you can assume all of this was the case, right? Like it's Paul, it's Elise with her curse, and then Ghislaine, his mating season. Yeah, you kind of. Well, Ghislaine has even said as much as like Paul literally wrote to Rudius in Volume 2 whenever he sent him away to go study with Eris and teach her. He's like the only thing I could ever beat Ghislaine in is in bed, and then Ghislaine like. Acknowledges it. She's like, yeah. So we already kind of got this information, but no, it's a cool exchange between the sisters. Not really much to say, just a little bit of further characterization.
And I think especially following up like with chapter 9, just like good conversations between the female characters and stuff. It's just very cool. Especially and also Ghislaine and Elena about the. As former party members as well, which, speaking of former party members, we have another extra chapter later that I have thoughts on.
I cannot wait to hear what you got to say about that. But anyway, that's skipping ahead a little bit. So I'm about done with Volume 16, though.
That
chapter, that I did not expect that. That was crazy. But
I thought it was interesting because as an extra chapter, it's new to you, but it's also pretty clearly foreshadowing like some important later stuff. I imagine you have a good idea of what it's about.
Yeah. Anyway. What was I going to say? I think I had one more thing to say about the Ghislaine stuff. The idea. I love the idea where it's like you get a little bit in Ghislaine's mind where she's like, the older I get, the more I've had to like worry about certain things, and I'm not very good about like attending to multiple things, especially if they're more confusing. But this like revenge plot, I just got to kill the people who are responsible for Soros. It's really simple, really easy. I can get behind this, and and I don't have to think too much about it. But then I love the little detail when Elise says like, hey, protect, Rudius and Sophie. Because those are my grandkids, like, and then I love that the thought from Ghislaine. She's like, oh man, now it's gotten a little bit more complicated again. Like I just can't get away from these complications. Like life's complicated. It was cool. I was like, yeah, you're cool, Ghislaine. You're a cool character. That's about it. I gotta say, all I gotta say.
Anyway, moving into the next volume. Let's see.
The big one from this reading, where all the action-packed one. That's
and especially because like I feel like with the next one, it's a conflict that's like new. Like the old Rudy didn't have it, where this one is like a conflict we've been waiting on for a long fucking time. right?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
because we were getting like, I think it was volume 3, the extra chapter, I think, or maybe it was even volume 2, but it was literally first reading when we were introduced to Ariel and Fitz, right? So this is like finally like getting to that is like, yeah, very cool. Like,
Yeah, one of the
literally
reasons the long running stories are just superior, because you get this, you get this payoff like this, man. It feels it's so good, especially when it's executed to this extent. Because at least for me, volume 17 is highly like it is. It's approaching like volume 15 levels of like greatness.
It's really good. But anyway, because I think there's chapter 1, but because the first stuff I'm just looking to see if I have anything to say about chapter 1 before, because chapter 2 has the first action with Auber and Wita.
Wita, the goat.
Whittle Wita. But
Wita, the goat.
Oh yeah, that's right. There was the establishment of the man gods, just rules about his disciples, and like how like, because the future is so vague around the the royal conflict, that he can't just like change his disciples on the fly. Like, he can't decide that Luke's useless and he's going to make someone else a disciple. So it's pretty much, and as we find out, it's Luke, Rada, and Darius who are his disciples in this arc. Which I imagine is going to be a thing going forward, as like, the clue of like who's it going to be with the disciples in each conflict against the man god. Because obviously not all of them matter. Like in volume 18, they specify that like they fight 1 or 2, but never there's a third one out and about somewhere. So there's obviously a bunch of other disciples going about doing their thing, but and continually fighting Rudy and Orsted. But anyway.
That third one. I think you more or less covered chapter 1. That's just some expository shit, and then we get the first epic fight, which I must say, and I remembered this from my web novel readings going into this. I was very excited, not only because volume 17 I knew going in, I remember everything, so I knew how cool it was going to be, but I just was really excited to reread all of the Auber fight scenes, because every fight scene with Auber is so fucking cool. God, I can't wait for this shit to be animated. It's gonna be so cool. Auber is such a cool character. He's just such a cool fighter,
No, well, I was gonna say, one thing that really struck me about the action in this chapter is just how, like, obviously it's a Western setting. And Rudy even lampshades it with Auber, because he's like, he calls him, he's a ninja, right? Like, he literally uses ninja techniques and tactics of just like, but then I was going to mention how the duel between Geese and Wita, when the way they sort of exclaim their names and ranks and stuff, that feels
I'm
so.
Sorry, Krabs, that was so funny. You just said Geese and Wita, and I was like, Geese versus Wita. That's a fight I'd want to see. Ghislaine.
Yeah, that's who I meant. But yeah, because I'm pronouncing it. I know I'm pronouncing it wrong, because I was pronouncing it as it's read, but it's like the S is silent. I understand that now.
No. Yeah, well, but Geese is like another, another character.
Oh, Geese.
Sure.
Yeah. Right.
That's literally what you said, Geese.
You're right. You're right. I was shortening Ghislaine, but it's like, it's not. It's it's Ghislaine. So I just need to say it like that. See, that one I'm fine with changing, because like my pronunciation is just not how the name is pronounced, because I've never heard the name Ghislaine pronounced. Like someone in the comments mentioned Ghislaine Maxwell, and it's like, I've never heard that name pronounced, so I would have just read it Ghislaine, like I've been saying Ghislaine in this reading so far. But so that I'm going to try and change that one just because it is just like not happening.
Yeah, no, I'm literally only mentioning it because Geese is another character.
I didn't realize
the thought of Geese versus Wita is kind of funny, because they're both like trickster guys.
Yeah, and I was so confused, because I'm like, but Ghislaine and Wita do fight. Like, what do you want to see that? But it's like, oh, because now I understand why how you heard Geese. But I was, because the way they basically because back during feudal Japan warring eras is people of notable status would proclaim their name to the person that they fought, so that they could, if they won, they would know who they defeated, and vice versa, so that they can get the glory for that defeat, basically. And Kabuki players would use this for exposition, basically, because if they had to, they didn't have to introduce the characters beforehand, they could just have them introduce themselves when they fought. And this is kind of like bled into other media, like you might have vague memories of Power Rangers, like when they transform, they always like say what kind of ranger they are, like they introduce themselves before they fight. So I was just thinking about how that aspect of the duels sort of felt very samurai in a sense, and then you have Auber doing ninja stuff, and I was just like, it was just interesting to think of like the cultural stuff in regards to that, because of it being a Japanese series with a very Western setting, but still having stuff like that feels Japanese, I guess. But no, the action was cool. Like Auber, the fucking way that like he just patiently waits until Rudy casts a spell, and that's when he moves in, right? Like he's just very careful and dangerous to like, and specifically like the man god informed Darius that Auber that Rudy is dangerous, so Darius informed Auber to specifically go after one of his strongest mobile fighter to go after Rudy, right? And just it's good.
Yeah, and the exchange is really cool too. Like Albert is like legitimately surprised. He's like, "Oh, you discovered me before I could like kill you." But then, then he immediately follows it up with like, "But you're in my range, so you're dead anyway." It's like, this motherfucker's a badass, man. Holy shit!
No, I do like their
Rudius has the Orsted's words. It's similar too, because Eris, whenever she was fighting Orsted, she had the sword god's words, Golfarians, and then now Rudius. One of the reasons he's surviving all these encounters is because Orsted's telling him everything he knows about Albert. So he comes in with and this is the part that when I was reading, it kind of took me out. I was like, what the fuck? Because I was really like at this point, because again, I was telling you already, even before the scene started, I was really hyped to see the Albert stuff again, to read it again. But whenever he throws out the rocket fist, Albert literally says like, you can throw out your fist like a rocket. And I was like, read that. I was like, Albert, how do you, you're not supposed to know what a rocket is. Like, and so,
I didn't catch that.
I thought about it a little bit more, and I was like, maybe this is a translation thing, because maybe he says something else that's like similar to a rocket that would be more in line with what would be in this universe. But if not, this is kind of an L, like, because Albert should not know what a rocket is.
No, right? language is hard. Like some and it's. Like, I remember, like, J.R.R. Tolkien talking about how tobacco is a very modern word. So when writing Lord of the Rings, he uses pipeweed because tobacco shouldn't exist as a word, as a phrase, even if it exists, like, physically in the world. So, like, I don't know, language is a fine concession to make, I think. Because, of course, most of the time we hear things from Rudy's perspective, and he does know these things. But, because, it's like, how... Because I guess, because I'm just thinking about it, because one comparison I always think about in a very relatively early episode of Campaign 3 Critical Role, where it's like, it's a little different because it's like they're playing in a fantasy setting, but they're also like, there's it's D&D, it's the, there's the improv nature of it as well. And I remember one character got like shocked by an electricity trap, and they, the player compared it to, an outlet. Right, but it's like, well, those don't exist in the world. Or like, there's been jokes about how like Jesus Christ must exist in the setting because the characters say it a lot when exclaiming, right? Because it's just a general like, holy shit, right? But it doesn't really make sense in the setting when you think about it. But it's just like, I don't know. But that's a little different because it's like, again, the improv nature of it. But I don't know. It's just something I think about, because I'm just like, how would Auber describe a rocket fist without the word rocket? And oh, you launched your fist? Well, launch also derives from so it's like you shot out your that would work, like if they have crossbows or bows. So there's ways. I guess
that's the thing. Shot is also not either, because with bows it's draw and then loose. Right.
Okay. Right. So. Okay. Yeah. Because I think of it like shoot an arrow, but I guess it's probably again a modern term. Like I don't know how they actually referred to it back in the day.
Letting loose is like the more.
That's fair. But then again, also they don't like we watch like Game of Thrones and stuff, but it's like in actual medieval times they weren't speaking modern English, so there's it's just like. I don't know. It's a whole mess. Or another one that I'm just getting into just general like suspension of disbelief, and like where it's like. Like for like the Marvel movies or something, or just like movies that take place in modern times. So it's like, but that means that the actors who are in the movies can't exist in the reality of those movies. So like if stuff like that. Or apparently in Sopranos they reference a television show, and that television show also in a later episode references The Sopranos. So it's like they're both fiction in each other's universes, but it's a and then so it's all I don't know. Fiction's weird, and again, it's just suspension of disbelief. But I also don't know what the original Japanese word is, so or that the sentence was rather.
It could have just been like a translation bug.
Yeah,
which is like
yeah.
fine, but if not, come on, guys. Come on.
Yeah,
come on.
I don't know.
You should know.
That was a whole tangent. But anyway,
Yeah. Anyway, the fight's really cool though.
Yeah.
Well, it's not really much of a fight because as soon as because of Rudius's assistance, Ghislaine takes care of Wita very, very quickly, and then she's able to regroup. Eris is now spotting Albert, so she's coming, and then Albert's like, you know what? We're just getting started, but farewell. He's like, I don't want any of this smoke. And then he does some cool ass shit. He ignites his blade on fire and would have hit Eris, but then Rudius immediately counters because he knows the technique he's about to use because of Orsted. It's like so much cool shit is happening, and you're like, I don't know, it's cool. And then he like fucking does a fake out technique where he's like he switches himself with something that's wearing his other cloak.
He has like a cloak, but he has to run and go grab his other cloak back or something like.
He uses a what is it called? Like it's like a rope with a claw.
Oh, that was it. Yes, that's right. A grapple hook.
Grapple hook. Yeah, he uses a grapple hook to grab it, and then he's just such a goofy fighter, man. He's got a lot in his sleeve.
No, and I also like how they specify how, even like we talk, like even though they're as North God style fighters, they use tricks. And I also like how they all have their own individual tricks, but it's like they still have good foundations as well. They just supplement those foundations with Albert having just so many different things to pull out, or I like how Weetah has in the darkness he uses different tactics than he does in the light, right? And Orsted, of course, giving him advice to counter those. So, it's and North God style is neat in seeing these different because Paul was also North God style, right? But he didn't really, or that's what he.
But Paul was also he was everything. Yeah,
yes.
He was advanced in everything.
But
as far as Rudius knew, but
he didn't have a super personalized North God style like these practitioners, I guess, because
no.
The
most we ever saw him do, which is what a commenter has told us before, is when he ran on all fours toward Rudius. That's apparently a North God style form. Mm-hmm. So that's as far as we know.
But anyway, also I like a little.
And then also the Gannis. What was that guy's name? That Rudius does fight a North Saint in I think it's volume 4, right?
Oh yeah. I kind of remember that fight. It was in the Doldia, right? The slaver.
Yeah. Because we also and then even before that, the first implementation of North God we saw was the North God guy throwing his sword at Rudius. Mm-hmm. He's like, oh yeah, the North God style has techniques where they throw their shit, and then Eris even does it against Orsted. Yeah, so we've seen North God here and there. So anyway.
You're good. But I was going to say, I like the note that the man god is bad at prediction because of his power of foresight. So he's not actually good at predicting what people can do because if he uses his abilities as as I was saying it, I realized that's kind of a contrast with Rudy because Rudy doesn't lean on his talents, right? He tries to overcome his weaknesses, where the man god is so much more powerful in his power of foresight that he hasn't bolstered his weakness, understanding people and predicting what they might do, and in that way, the way Orsted says, it's he's not all seeing and he's not all powerful, right? So him having that limit just makes a lot of sense and is really good.
Yeah, it's kind of almost the inverse of Orsted too, given that he's got literal techniques so that he utilizes so that he can use the least amount of mana, so that he doesn't always have to use it, right? So they're both him and Rudius are a lot more adaptable than the man god, whereas the man god has kind of this, not this all powerful power, but this power that he can seemingly always rely on. He's an idiot when it comes down to it.
But anyway, I was gonna say because next we get the Ariel Orsted meeting, which of course starts with Ariel wetting herself And a look of ecstasy is spread across her face, and it's like, oh my fucking god.
That's how Ariel comes to be able to withstand Orsted, is because she's like, she just needed this moment to be able to actualize one of her fantasies, and now everything's
Rudy,
boy.
I'm feeling relieved, and not just in my bladder. Just what are you talking about? She's great.
Gosh.
But yeah, her also being like on the becoming the next employee of Orsted.
Well, yeah, I was
really
gonna say,
cool.
because I love Rudius's like conclusion. He's like, well, Orsted company now I now have a coworker in the Orsted company. It's like, that's funny. It's a funny way to put it. But and now they're both of their bosses are Orsted.
Yeah. We also find out that why Ariel is important is that because she bolsters Asura with the kingdom with magic, where Darius would use military might, and as a result, she'll lead to its continued existence, where Darius's would have fallen apart, basically.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh yeah, neat.
And it's curious that Orsted does not mention what calamity befalls them that they have to face against at that time.
Mm-hmm.
I would wager maybe it has something to do with Laplas's revival.
That seems, because Well, because there was hold on, because Orsted said that Rudy's bloodline wouldn't produce Laplas, but now I'm going back to like, well, I don't know. I was just thinking about that because I was going back to like, how would he know that? Because like, I mean...
Oh, no. I remember now. So,
okay.
Man God wants the Ashura Kingdom crushed because it'll lead... someone in that conflict will lead to... there's a person that's going to lead to the Man God's downfall that is in the Ashura Kingdom at the time.
Okay.
And he will die with the Ashura Kingdom if Darius remains. Yeah.
God, he's bringing down a whole kingdom just to kill one man.
Yes.
That's
yes,
wild.
Exactly.
Yeah. But I was going to say, because I'm pretty sure, I forget what volume it was, but Orsted mentions that he's pretty sure that Laplas won't come from Rudy's bloodline, because Rudy does directly talk to Perugius about the bringing the sun to Perugius, and that it's like, yeah, I will kill your son if it's Laplas, right?
Oh, wait. I'm sorry, Crafts. I just now realized. Okay.
Ahead.
Because in the dialogue, Orsted is telling Ariel and Rudius that it is one man that will... I don't know. I would have to go back, because it's either he will be one of the people that lead to the defeat, or he is the person, because as we know from volume 18, in the other time loops, the person that allies with the sacred beast is not Lara.
Yes,
because
it's
obviously
another
Rudius
guy.
is not a thing. Now I'm wondering, is all of this futile, given that now in this time, because if this is just that guy that is supposed to be with the sacred beast and the guy who is ultimately leads to the Man God's defeat, like he is the pinnacle,
the hero,
like he is
right?
the help, he is the hero, right? I'm wondering if that's the hero, the guy who's born in Ashura, that the Man God is after, because now with all the context, it's like that's kind of futile, because in this time loop, it's Lara, right?
Maybe.
So, I'm wondering. I would have to go back, because it's either it's the person that's born that will just help defeat the Man God, but then again, in all contexts, I guess it's help, because Orsted is going to be a part of it.
And even my thought is just like, even if, because I don't know, I'm just trying to envision how, because I know some minor spoilers based on the volume covers, which aren't really spoilers. It's just like, this character is in this volume. But I have seen, the last volume that has the whole big family. So just the fact that, the conflict, Rudy isn't, because, I teased the idea of, because Rudy and Orsted are working together and they can accomplish something that might not have been possible in all of now that I can now see as other Orsted's other loops. I was just wondering, how might this, the series end, basically, and I was just thinking about how the fact that it's, it really doesn't need, Rudy can just, Rudy doesn't have, at one point, Orsted can just say, the future is more or less set in stone at this point, and, I don't need you to do my bidding anymore, right? So you can just live out your happy life with your family, because the fact that the conflict is in the future, right? With, because they have to get the 5 artifacts, they have Roxy successfully given birth to Lara, and she's now supplanted the original hero as the hero who's going to defeat Laplas. and they're doing all these other deeds, right? Like there's volume 18, like the guy with the tower with Rudy being like the evil villain to get the two together, or and then like saving this other life of these two girls in this one town, so that these are deeds that will help Orsted later on, but they're also just good things to do that wouldn't that help the world in general, right? Or just people in the world that he might not have done he probably wouldn't have done otherwise, right? So even like on their own they're good, but there's also the promise of the future being bolstered through those actions as well, right? So I guess like even if the Ashura Kingdom no longer needs to produce this one person because Lara exists as well. Like, even if that's the case, like, he still also prevented a kingdom from collapsing and all the war and slavery and pain that would have resulted from that, So, still, that's my take on it from current perspective. So, yeah.
Yeah, and just the fact that this is, like, I mentioned before, but, like, that this story is all just, like, a prelude to, like, the actual big epic that is one day going to be told is so cool to me. Like it's like this story is so unique in that, and then this is a great story in of itself. Like there's a lot of epic shit going on, but I mean comparatively to what is foretold and what is supposed to happen, what Orsted is plotting, it's like it almost seems like a blimp on the map, at least from history's perspective.
Yeah, well, I was about to say, because the way you said it's going to be told, I was like, wait, is he actually like working on this? Is there a Mushoku Tensei Lara sequel being written?
Yes, actually.
Oh my god!
Yes, Rifujin has already stated that he plans on making that tale with Lara as the main character. So
well, because what I'm curious about was was this always the goal, or was it just something that emerged naturally? Because I'm leaning on the latter of that case of it just being like, oh yeah, this is would be a cool story to tell, rather because you mentioned unique, and I will bring up one other example I'm familiar with is there's the two novels he wrote more obviously, but Orson Scott Card's Ender's Game and Speaker for the Dead. Speaker for the Dead is the sequel to Ender's Game, but that was the one he originally wanted to write, and Ender's Game ended up being more popular and well known. But that was written as a prequel to Speaker for the Dead because Ender's backstory was so like in depth and important that he dedicated a novel to it before doing Speaker for the Dead, where Ender is still like one of the most important characters in the book. But so it's very much a follow up to his backstory. But like that was the original planned novel, basically. So I wanted to bring up that as like an example. But it is interesting I didn't know that there's going to be fucking more Mushoku Tensei in a sense, even if it's not a. Well, it's more daughter of the.
As we know it.
It's not a jobless reincarnation. It's privileged half-demon brat becomes a hero. I don't know what her personality is like. Hell yeah. But I could see her be like they even mentioned her face as being like stuck up at one point, I think, and the fact that she's living her life being doted on by an incredibly powerful spirit is like I can see her being very cocky, of course, that's so like in a way like I don't know now I'm curious about seeing that story because Rifujin's talking about writing it, so it's like oh
yeah, I mean if Rifujin, I'm gonna be there, I'll be seated for it 100%. I know it's gonna be great. So
I forget what question I was asking about Orsted knowing things. I'll remember it later, or I won't. Oh well.
Well, whatever. Doesn't matter. We got way off the rails there.
Yeah, very.
Yeah.
So anyway, after that we get Triss. Well, and at the start of that chapter is that like I remember Eris noting like presences around them, and then she turned out to have underestimated the number of people who were around her. So I was wondering, was that because she was just like not as good at sensing the presence around her, or was she just bad at math and miscounted? Like,
it's probably the latter.
Okay, gotcha. Which is
knowing Eris, it is probably the latter.
That one's definitely the funnier one.
that moment is like, wait, Eris, this is way more than what you were saying. Eris, dear, what the fuck?
5's the highest number I can count. Leave me alone.
Yeah, that's so funny.
So don't get more than 5 wives, or I won't be able to tell people how many wives you have.
Exactly. That's funny.
But anyway, Triss, her just being angry and also hot. Like I think like that. Like I think obviously, or I think there was like a Luke interaction or a bit with them.
Yeah, where she's like, she's kind of floored by Luke. She's like, oh wow.
Yeah, that was it. Yes.
And well, I mean, it's kind of cute too because obviously, given her history, she's not used to being treated like that by men. Like Luke is actually giving her due respect as someone of the opposite sex. Like, hello, my lady. Like, kind of the chivalry, classic chivalry.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, and she's not used to experiencing that, even which is ironic given that she is literally from a noble house of Austria. And
he sort of gives her the promise of like what she should have had, and that which I could see, that being how they end up together. Like, why not, right? Like, they're both allies in this kingdom, and because the how it's resolved. I like how you just have another instance of like Rudy, through Orsted's suggestion doing this thing, but then ultimately like Ariel sees her and immediately goes like, oh shit, I'd recognize you. And they're like Rudy doesn't even need to do anything further for them to have met their goal of like, because obviously it's like, oh, we have to convince Triss to go back to the Austria kingdom and help us deal with Darius. And it's like, oh, once Ariel comes in, it's like, oh yeah, there's no need for any further involvement. Like, she's already down, like the goal's already met, right?
Something I thought of when I was reading it that I made myself laugh. I was like, knowing Ariel, like, it's probably that like Triss already when they were kids was kind of like well endowed for her age or something, and then Ariel like looks at her and she's like, I know those boobs from anywhere because I had my eye on her when we were kids. That's Triss. That's Christina Purplehorse.
That would be,
I'm like, knowing Ariel, that's that's how she zoned in.
It would be very funny if just like back-to-back chapters of Ariel like moving the story forward and her agenda forward, but also by being like a pervert, like, because obviously you have her and Orsted and then her and Triss, and it's just like, oh yep, bye as fuck. But I mean, also, like, because they highlight how a lot of the, like, Ashuran nobility is, like, by our world standards, pretty degenerate, So, like, Ariel, like, being able to fit into that, but also, like, not to the point of, like, having a sex slave like Darius did with Triss, right? I don't know.
Even early on, we see her capacity for, resisting that, that carnal darkness with Sylphie when she invites Sylphie to bed. She's like, she probably really wanted to get dirty with Sylvie. She's like, right. Oh, don't worry, we're just going to
as someone, like, because, Sylphie was, like, that's what the fate that befell a lot of the Fatoan teleportation victims, right? It's because, like, they have no connections, they're not near, some went into slavery, they had no power over their own lives, right? And Ariel, in theory, could have taken advantage of that, but she decided, to go with friendship instead, and now she has this stronger bond with Sylphie as a result, right? And also, establishing her as, like, a person worthy of the Ashuran royalty rather than Darius, So, very good.
Yeah. Now that you mentioned friendship, and we've talked about it a lot before, but, Mushoku Tensei really is shonen coded, actually. There's a lot of power friendship moded.
Let's go!
Scenes. Yeah. A lot of those motifs everywhere in the series, so. Hell yeah. No wonder I love it so much, because it's also shonen.
Yep. Also, when Triss was getting like huffy with Rudy and Eris got mad, and just Eris being Eris. Very good.
Yeah. Good shit. And then they get Triss on their side. Hell yeah. And then she's gonna escort him, and it's the next chapter. I don't really know what to say on this one. There's the conversation between Rudius and Ghislaine. That's really, really cool. How Ghislaine is finally thanks for what you did, by the way. And Rudius is like, what? And he's like, oh, she must be talking about days ago with Wita, and she's just now telling me thanks. It's like classic Ghislaine, thanks for the help with Wita. And she's like, complimenting him, and they talk about shit. It's a cool conversation, but then, oh no, Luke, the man god is getting in his head.
Yep.
Oh no. Oh god. Oh fuck.
Yeah, well, because and it just shows how one the man god really doesn't understand people, but also how insidious and powerful his manipulation is, because obviously Rudy mentions if you think for about 2 seconds, you should realize that I don't want to become head of the Notos Grey Rat family, because obviously it has that blood connection, Paimon being Paul's younger brother, right? So it's he's literally in the same line, but it's also or Pilemon. I don't know how to pronounce. I always read it as Paimon.
I just call him Paimon.
Like a Digimon, yeah. That's how I keep reading it too. But I guess if I were to read it under katakana, it would be just reading it as is. It would be Pilemon, I guess. But Or so I don't know how they pronounce it. I don't remember how they pronounce it in the anime. So if they even mentioned his name, because it would have because it was mentioned in the novel, but I don't remember if it came up in the anime. Anyway, but yeah, just like because Luke just accepts something so like nonsensical but completely at face value and faithfully, right? And and the way they like. Or I know Rudy had the comment where it's like, man, this imaginary Rudy, if he took the reins for me, things would be way easier, right? Like this idea of him that Luke constructed is like, Rudy's like, damn, I wish things would be if I was like this conniving and clever, So it's just it's pretty funny.
And then but then we get the next day the revelation that Luke kind of spilled all the beans to Ariel. And he's like, I'm the God came to me and said this. And then we get the advice is that it's just one warning and that Rudius will betray them. And his goal is to be Lord of the Notos house. That's what he's gunning for, basically. So no wonder Luke would be so, outspoken against anything Rudius goes, because not only is it like he's, going to keep Ariel from doing what she wants to do, but which become king, but also he's gonna fuck over Luke's line, like Pyleman and I guess his sort of birthright in a sense. Odd because given that Paul was the older brother, it would have been Rudius's had things gone differently. So it's funny. It's funny.
Yeah. That said, there was a that I meant to mention earlier because I thought it was because when they were going through the Fatoa region and like Sylphie was considering like the what if possibilities basically of like what obviously what if the teleportation like what would their lives might have been there if they stayed and stuff, and because like Eris didn't really care about the Fatoa region. Because, most of their bonding was outside of it, where Sylphie met Rudy in Fatoa, so she, was remembering it fondly, right? So just, I don't know, interesting how, like, strongly Rudy affects their, respective bonds to, like, Eris, lived in Fatoa for longer than she had ventured with Rudy, but, it came to not matter as much in the end, I guess.
It's cool.
God, and the way, in Chapter 7, when they get into the city, and everyone's seeing Ariel and being like, oh my god, it's Ariel, and they're like attracting a crowd, right? And I was just thinking about that in contrast to how it ended for them in the bad timeline, where they were branded traitors and had rocks thrown at them. Just seeing that, like thinking about the juxtaposition there of the contrast between this timeline and how it ended in that timeline was just like, it just made me think about that, and I was like, oh boy, like how I guess in a way, because they might have reacted the same way back when Ariel first came into town back then, right? Like nothing changed, but then like how things flipped when they lost, right? And just Rudy burnt that fucking capital to the ground, didn't he? So geez,
he did be doing that, yeah. He did
anyway,
be doing that. Speaking of which, he will indirectly kill someone in this volume at the end. So
yeah.
We'll be there. Anyway, before that, they're here in ours. Wow, they're in the wrong.
Yay!
And people, as you said, are cheering for them. But then, hey, an acquaintance appears.
Yeah.
A knight appears. Like, oh man, do we got to fight? And it's like, oh no, it's like a beautiful blue-haired woman. It's Isolde. Hey!
Yay! And again, I mentioned the interaction before where she just like shits on Luke, but is like, oh, Rudy's kind of though, and it's like, well,
that is actually milady
But then we get
funny interaction. Rudius not revealing who he is at that point.
It's too awkward. I'll just let her walk into that realization later herself. But anyway,
that is really all I can remember from when they first come in the capital. Honestly.
No, that was about it because they get to I was going to bring up they go into the palace and because you have Rudy comparing like Luke and his dad's relationship to him and his dad's relationship, where he's sort of because Paimon is sort of like looking, because Luke survived all this time and like Paimon isn't like receiving him very warmly. But like where Rudy's thinking about when he met Paul after the displacement incident, but like they were able to reconcile where for Paimon and Luke, it's a little more difficult, right? Like, you know, especially because like Paimon is like such a coward. Like think about him in contrast to Paul, right? Where Paul, you know, said fuck authority, fuck nobility, I'm gonna do my own thing, and then you know, he became so strong. Or he was strong in that way, and then he became even stronger. Where Paimon is he's just a complete coward. He has no real integrity, like the way he just grovels to Ariel after it's all over, right? You know, so yeah, blood relations.
Definitely a distinction. Well, and it's so crazy too, because what you just said, Bao, I just now thought of this in real time as you were saying that. That's very reminiscent of when do we remember like the first time Paul bounding in the story, whenever he admits, like just straight up, he's like, he doesn't take any time. He's like, I'm sorry, that baby's probably mine, to his wife, Zenith. And, you know, that could fall apart. But he doesn't pull any punches. He's like, I did this, you know, I'm repenting here. Whereas Paimon is just lying. He's doing the same thing. He has the same, you know, physical action, but the sentimentality is completely opposite.
Yeah, it's strength for one, but it's weakness for another, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, that's good. I hadn't thought about that. That's good, yeah. Very nice. And you also have because you have another fight where you have the twins, the twin blade, and then Orsted killing Weeta after he runs away and giving some direct assistance, which that was so. And I
love like the description of like when Rudius is like, he's like, oh, it's this, you know, signature move of the Dragon God. I guess he did show up here and he took care of Weeta. But then he turns around and Eris is like, oh, you got him, Rudius. But then she's like so happy that Rudius like got him. Like, hey, Rudius got him, guys. But then he's like looking at Eris. He's like, oh my God, that wound, Eris. Like, do you not feel that? He's like, holy shit, Eris. Like,
yeah, like she's
Eris
a little,
is so funny.
Eris is great. And then also I think that was when Auber was doing the hold up sheet, you know, disguise thing, but on the wall where he was like camouflaged to the wall in the darkness.
Actually, another
which like
moment,
you might especially when I would think about it, I always think about like Konohamaru in like chapter like fucking 2 of Naruto when he's doing the same thing but fucking it up, you know. So but like where Auber wasn't messing it up, but Rudy was like he noticed it because he was keeping an eye out, right? So
like this time he doesn't give Auber a chance to fucking do anything. Auber's just like, oh, I gotta skedaddle.
Yep.
Run away.
And I'm about ready to move on to the climax because good stuff there, but we're flying through the volume and we got a little bit more to go.
I guess that's it's just a cool fight scene. Weeta dies. Rip Weeta. Rip the goat. Honestly, that's my final note. Rip my goat. Nor King Weeta, bro.
My short king.
You will be missed. My short king. You will be missed, bro. You will be missed.
Because
believe it or not, somehow he is a character I remembered, and I was actually hyped for him.
I was just gonna bring up how like because they mentioned he's a halfling, and I'm like, oh yeah, I guess that's I feel like I don't remember us having seen a halfling character because like it is a fantasy world with the stock standard fantasy races, but I feel like we haven't. There's some that we just haven't, like halfling is one of them that we just haven't really seen before yet. I can't think of any times that we saw halfling. So but then him also just being this really skilled swordsman is just a little like playing against type in a sense, because I feel like when you think of like stock fantasy races, you also think of like stock fantasy race tropes, I guess. And so Weeta being like a tricky swordsman doesn't really fit to what I imagine a halfling to be necessarily.
Yeah.
So
that's probably part of the reason I remember Weeta so well. He's just a goofy little guy, but he's also strong. So.
But yeah, I was just thinking about like how the North swordsmen are cool, but then you have the contrast with like Rada as the like and they're just like perfect fits for their style, right? Like the North, they're with the North characters, they're varied. They have their personalities up front and center, where Rada and her emotions are kept down, right? Like she's very calm and collected, and they just of course they perfectly fit their styles because they're some of the strongest practitioners of their styles, right? So it's cool.
All right, well, moving on to fucking when shit goes down. Well, this is what the payoff of everything we've been building up to, and it is some good fucking payoff.
Very, just like I think one of my favorite moments from like, well, okay, the first part of chapter 9, because you have, obviously they bring in Triss and explain Darius's crimes and basically collapse his position, but then you have his counter move where it's like, oh, Triss, yeah, she died ages ago. Yeah, we have her ring, or no, or they're able to contrive something, but then
she's got a mole on her breast.
Yeah,
but making shit up, you know.
I was trying to think. Didn't I see? I was like, didn't I see something recently with that? And it's Haruhi has the star-shaped mole on Mikuru's.
True.
That he sees from the future Mikuru, and then he's the one who tells the present Mikuru that she has it on her.
This crazy because when I was reading this, I was like, this sounds familiar. Where is this from? And that's what it is. The disappearance.
So, because I didn't think about it then, but when you brought it up, I was like, I've seen this in something else recently, and it's I watched Haruhi earlier this year. But then
pressure on your mind, yeah.
But I really liked when her dad, like, because especially in contrast to Pilebon, because like they're both like the thing about the nobility is like they're in this domain of power plays, and you either have to play the Game of Thrones, right? You win or you die, right? And so for Fridas, it's like Darius has so much power that to go against him is to risk like everything. But seeing his daughter, he decides to live or die with that daughter in mind, and rather than live in fear of Darius and let that have to live with the guilt of letting his daughter most likely die, if not suffer as in the same position that she escaped from, right? Just that was just a good moment of him standing up to Darius and crumbling his counterplay. It was like, let's go. And then you just the way like his crabs in a bucket, just like his whole position collapses and they all start dragging each other down trying to get to the top, but just like making them all look worse in the process. Like they're such shits.
And believe it or not, I did not remember the fashion in which Pergius actually shows up in the web novel.
He's so cool.
Whenever Grabo comes in and goes, well, guys, I mean, practically speaking, like, we need Darius right now, okay? So let's just bring it to a vote. All for me and all for Ariel. And I was like, wait, this has got to be when Pergius comes. This has got to be when Ariel plays her most important card. Because there's no way she wins this without Pergius coming in now. And of course, that's exactly what
the
happens.
Castle, the spirits. It's just like the presence of this man, the aura. Dude, and then the way it resolves, where it's like Grabel, he's like, oh, there's this seat for the host of honor. I guess you should take it, Perugius. You're the strongest, biggest dick motherfucker here. And he's like, no. I think it should belong to the next ruler. How about you, Ariel? And it's like, oh, yeah,
because he already gave it up. Because it's
exactly
such a cool
right.
Because Grabel already gave it up, so he can't. The only other next ruler is Ariel. So Ariel, take your fucking seat. It's like, oh
right,
my God.
And it's perfect because like the first thing he thinks to do when meeting Perugius is like to kowtow, right, to bow to this great power. But Ariel, as she said earlier, on that floating castle that's now like a mile away in the air, she said, "I will cut you off if you don't. If you're not going to follow me because you don't like my answer, then I don't need you because I don't want someone who doesn't agree with me on my side," right? So it's like she already showed that she has the strength to rule, not because of Perugius, but by what's the word? With him, right? Or like with him in her faction, right? Not winning because of him. And because she displayed that already, that he's already made his choice, and Grapple doomed himself. Like even if he wasn't doomed before he showed up, he was doomed when he gave the seat up to Perugius, and basically said, I'm not willing to rule or to be at the top if you're here, right? Where Ariel, it was really cool.
Yeah, no, it is. Oh man, but then the most crazy. It's like. Just as you're probably forgetting Rada is a piece on the chessboard, boom, Chandelier comes down, kills some nobles, like, hello, I'm the water god. You all do not move a muscle. And it's like, what the fuck? It's like, what's crazy about this scene is going from the web novel, I've always remembered this scene. This is like the one thing I clearly viscerally remember.
Like the most clear memory you have.
Yeah, the most clear meme is me envisioning Rada coming down, riding the chandelier, crushing people, and and was showing her blade, going, "Hey, no one fucking move." That's what I've been waiting for, man. As I was reading, I was like, "Yes, this is the goat scene." And I love how during this entire fucking ordeal, Pergius is just so amused. He's just chilling. He doesn't give a shit. He's like, literally, his familiars are like dying around him because they're the first to move. I think it's two of them, right? One of them I know is Aramanfi, which makes sense because he's Aramanfi the Bright. He moves the fastest. And then someone else I know. But Pergius is like, I'll just revive him in the castle. And I'm entertained right now. I just want to see what happens. God. But I guess you could also say, though, not only that, but maybe Pergius himself couldn't really make many moves. You know, it is the water god Rada. So maybe he's in her range too.
I like the way... Because, like, obviously we know she's strong. She's the water god. But the way that the chapter 10 starts with just explaining why, and it's like, yeah, a lot of other water gods have been able to master 2 of the arts. You know, like, I think they mentioned, like, no one's really been able to master 3 of them. But the 2 that she mastered work perfectly together, and no one else has mastered since the original water god. And it's like, But then not only that, but she, like, combined them and made her own art. Yes.
Right? Her own unique art. And by the way, this is one of my favorite technique names in fiction. The Sword of Deprivation. Oh my god, it sounds so cool. It's so fucking cool. Rada is so cool. The fucking Sword of Deprivation. Bro, that's a sick ass name. Come on now.
Dude, the way she's like shuts down the entire room of some incredibly powerful, like, all of Pergius' spirits. Rudy's there. Sylphie and Eris are like Ghislaine. Like, there's some fucking powerful people there. They're all just shut down immediately by one just really simple, clever move of just dropping, the rain on everybody. And yeah,
and then just like the conversation. She's like, Auber, hey, oh, that reminds me, like the fucking exchange, the stupid fucking exchange between Auber and Rudius. It's like, hello, Rudius Grey Rat. I do not believe we've met before. It's like, hello, Auber Corvette. It's like, this motherfucker Auber, man. Like, you didn't just try to kill these motherfuckers several times. But anyway, like, it's so cool. Rada's like, hey, Auber, go kill Ariel. Just kill him now. Like, no one can move. Go kill him. And it's like, and it's like, and then Alber's like, and she's like, oh, Eris is here, bro. I should have. Even you trickster motherfucker are a swordsman at heart.
No, yeah, I think that was like really cool for Auber, just as a character, just him having that human. Which also, again, I didn't even connect it because I was talking about like the water god, the water style, like cutting away your emotions, where the North god leans into your individuality. So it makes sense that Auber having this. Yes, I didn't think about that until just now.
That's a good point. True. Yeah.
Right, because he struggles to just like kill Eris because he did train with her for months. And formed some kind of a bond with her, where Rada also trained with her, but she didn't, right?
Also makes sense why Eris was able to utilize the North God, why it came to her easy, and she in no time at all became a North Saint, because she wears her emotions on her sleeve, right?
Right.
So yeah, that's a cool point.
But then I don't know, another point I wanted to bring up about Rada that I think is neat, because we find out her backstory, that she was helped by Darius as a child, and then the man god gave her the opportunity to sort of pay that, like, that repay the favor. She met him as an adult, and he didn't even remember her. He turned into a kind of piece of shit, so she just like left, and the man god convinced her to go back and repay that debt that she never paid back, right, with interest, right? By saving him here. And I was just thinking about how that's what the man god was doing with Rudy as well, right? With trying to let them live without regrets, right? And allowing for this, like, sort of like, this is exactly what you want, right? To live without regrets, right? Where Rudy, of course, he went against the man god's orders, and with going to save his dad, and he was able to accept that resolve, right? Like that circumstance, right? And like not just follow the man god's whims, and eventually broke away from the man god entirely after fighting Orsted, right? But so Rada, like, because I was just thinking about, like, hypothetically, let's say that she was there not because of the man god, then like because like Orsted specifically is fighting the man god, right? Like, if not for all this involvement, then like if like she. I was just trying to frame, like, because there's a bit of an Orsted ex machina. Maybe you'll have come to a different resolution where it's like there's just this very difficult scenario with Rada dropping in, and Orsted just comes in and terrifies everybody and instantly kills Rada. Not instantly, but he just basically walks up and kills her, right? And I was just thinking about how it's like she became an enemy of Orsted because she was under the man god's thrall, basically, and like hypothetically, like obviously, yeah, like that's what happened without Orsted. Like yeah, Ariel and Sylphie, they all died in the other timeline, right? So,
Yeah.
because yeah, but anyway, I don't know. I was just thinking about it and just thinking about how it's like, yeah, just think about her as a man god apostle and just like yeah, trying to avoid regret, and that ultimately like being her downfall in the sense that like she made an enemy of Orsted. So, which I don't know, maybe that's a little much, but I don't know. Maybe you'll have some other takeaways from the Rada and her conclusion.
I mean, to me, well, because I mean, you kind of mentioned it already. Like the whole style, the water god style, is about putting your emotions on hold being sort of what would you say? I mean, audience knows what I'm trying to say. You know what I'm trying to say already.
Yeah,
I don't. We got to keep going on that front.
Detached, maybe.
Detached. Yeah, it makes you detached, but it's so funny that the thing that has motivated her the most and that motivated her the most was that emotional tether she had to Darius, right?
She's Obito. Yeah, I get it.
Yeah, exactly. Pretty much.
She's acting as a tool, but ultimately what guides her reasons to act as a tool is the fact that, she has these personal connections that she can't, that fundamentally are driving her actions, right? So
exactly.
Okay, that makes
sense. What's
yeah.
even more conniving in that on that line is that the man god is acting sort of as like a Black Setsu or Madoka Uchiha. He's taking advantage of that and ultimately leading her to just a futile, because she already answered it for herself before she reached the conclusion, is like, none of this matters. Darius is a piece of shit at this point, but that is the reason. He is the reason I'm here. He is the reason I am Water God Rada. He is the reason that I've had a future. So even if it is a venture in futility, I will walk it nonetheless. I will. It's funny too, because you mentioned regret with Rudius, but it's like, what would she regret more? Not doing this when she has the opportunity, or leaving behind Isolde?
No, because she even specifically contrives the situation so that like Isolde can strike down this old lady who went mad and become the hero of the situation, right? Like,
because right now, in terms of that emotional tether, she has that. She doesn't need Darius. She has that with Isolde, but she's leaving Isolde in such a in such a alarming state, right? She's just randomly here, telling Albert to be untrue to himself in a swordsman way to do this. Now she's causing up a storm that Isolde definitely doesn't want. I mean, she's a fucking knight right now, right? And obviously she cares immensely for Isolde. So this entire ordeal she's doing, it is just a venture in futility. Like that but she knows. It's what's crazy is Rada knows this, and I think maybe even a part of her knows like this word from God is probably kind of bullshit, and. Like she seems, at least in terms of her temperament, she seems like the type of individual that could kind of see through that a little bit, right? Especially given the dialogue we've seen with her in the Sword God and how she's like, Gaul, this chick cannot defeat Isolde. Like she knew. She had that foresight and that insight. So it is interesting that despite all of that, maybe she couldn't tell, and maybe even all the way back then, she wasn't able to see her emotions that she kind of that kind of fueled her desire to be where she is. And even now, what matters more to her is probably not the position of Water God. It's probably the inheritance she's going to give to Isolde, which is the final note she gives before she dies, right? Is like, oh, and then Isolde, carries on my legacy. But it's like, there's a much better way to do that by just not doing what you're doing.
No,
right?
yeah. Well, I was actually, because as you were talking, I was thinking about Auber and how he's sort of like the inverse of Rada, where Rada has personal stake in this conflict and yet is burying her, personal desires for the sake of Darius and the man god, where Auber has no stake in this conflict, but he's here for, money because he was paid, right? And so, they're both sort of like, where in comparison, like obviously Rudy has, he's directly connected to a lot of people involved. He has the bad future where they, Sylphie dies here, right? So he has personal involvement, and but that's why he's here, and not like getting in the way. Like there's nothing at odds with Rudy or Ariel or any of the protagonists, right? Where Auber and Rada are both a little like out of sorts with the whole situation in one way or another. So yeah.
Yeah. Goated shit.
Yeah.
But then Dragon God, he comes.
Yep. Orsted just comes in, kills Rada, leaves. Chad move.
Yeah. So it's like, you motherfucker, and then like while fucking Orsted's doing the Giga Chad face as he's just strutting along off the patio. Yeah. But I thought it was really, really cool that like we get the exchange with Rudius and Eris. Eris is gonna move, but Rudius is like, hey, I don't want you to die. If you move, you're probably gonna die. But then like it's like, well, then what the fuck do we do? He's like, yeah, what the fuck do we do? Shit. And then it's like, and then finally like he's given the signal like, okay, well even I love like the dialogue from Rudius. He's like who is he? He's like I'm sorry, Roxy. Me and Eris, like he literally is like, me and Eris are dying together. Or I'm sorry, like Sylphie and Roxy, we're just dead. Like I was like, god damn, Rudius, no faith.
Yeah. Though, even though he was thinking that, because I was even remembering that during that whole situation, like he gathers the mana to cast a spell, and Rada stops him. But even after that, he's still trying to think of a way out of the situation, and he comes up with the idea of using his electric spell to zap everybody and possibly get an edge out. And I think I think it's because Orsted is coming in and distracting everybody that he's able to gather the mana, but he is able to like gather the mana and potentially, like, I was just considering like, oh, maybe there's a way that if Orsted didn't come in, maybe he could have resolved the situation himself. That's just not how the cards landed. But I'd have to go back through it again to be sure about that, because if Orsted distracted everybody and allowed him to gather the mana, then that's not really the case.
That would be interesting, like kind of like a what if, like if Refugin wrote it that way, where Orsted just came in close enough for his curse to affect, then he's like, I can leave the rest to Rudius or something. But then we don't get Rada.
No, yeah, for sure, or at least not the same way, for sure.
But and it's just crazy. Okay, this is like another insane example, by the way. Like, this is Water God Rada. Like, right now, Rudius can't move a muscle versus her Sword of Deprivation. But here's Orsted, not even going all out, right?
Yeah.
Just doing what he did against Ruijerd, right? Where it's just like, just his hands, using his sword techniques with just his hands, he defeats Rada. He defeats the Water God Rada.
Yep.
And it's like, it really puts into perspective. It's like, Rudius is the dude that's having a lot of difficulties versus Auber. Can't even move during this confrontation with Rada. It really puts into perspective, like, Rudius was so fucking prepared to fight Orsted.
Oh,
he was
yeah,
like
absolutely.
Batman on steroids, fucking, like, as we said, like Usopp into series versus Gear 5 Luffy type shit.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
well, I was even thinking about back in the last volume, at the start of it, Rudy was talking about how he, like, obviously he doesn't want to fight Orsted again, but like just the way Orsted talks about his mana being drained, I was thinking that like if Rudy went at Orsted the same way again, I think he'd probably come out on top at the because Orsted's like weakened in his mana, so he'd lost a bunch of his mana fighting Rudy, right? So it's like, in theory, like Rudy could wear him down at this point.
But that's the thing is, like, I don't even know if that's without the magic armor. That's probably not even true.
No, that I was thinking like going at it the same way again, like having the magic armor. Strike.
True.
But the difference is that Orsted would be going all out from the beginning. Because he'd be in a I'm just power scaling, I guess, doing a hypothetical, like what if Rudy went after Orsted again at this point, after having won the first time.
It really
it
just puts it. I was just saying, just puts it in perspective. Like, Rudius only looked that even though he is insanely strong, he only looked that insanely strong versus Orsted because of all the the context, right? What he had, the knowledge he had, the tools he had that he came prepared for with, how Orsted didn't immediately go all out, because that's who he is. Yeah, just all these things kind of compound, but it's the fact that Rada did not expect the Dragon God himself to come in, so of course she's handily defeated.
Bunch of the nobles that are like, who put the shit in my pants?
True. But then I love like the assumption where it's like, oh yeah, this is Ariel's victory, because they immediately think like, oh, this guy must be with Pergius, right? Because he's got the silver hair and yellow eyes, right? So he must be like working for Pergius. So yeah, okay, Ariel, you got Pergius,
Which is, it's not like Orsted is on Ariel's side in a sense, but they just misjudged what part of that side he was on, right? So
because funnily enough, it's something that's also elucidated in this read is Pergius also hates Orsted. Like he does not like Orsted. Like the curse is also affecting him.
Oh, too. I thought he was immune to it because he's a dragon folk.
It's said. I don't know if they say it's because of the curse.
Okay, I thought because
it is mentioned that Pergius doesn't care for Orsted, but he allows him to.
Yeah, that I remember. I just thought he's not affected by the curse. He just doesn't like Orsted because he doesn't care, or he doesn't care for him at least. Yeah, not because of the curse. Just that's how he just feels about Orsted, right? So, yeah, that's what I thought at least.
Let's see. Oh, okay. Yeah, not because of his curse, but Orsted is extremely powerful and dangerous.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
This is like a Reddit comment that I don't know how.
Okay. Well. Okay. That's because I mean it would just this similar to how Pergius was wary about Rudy, right? Because Rudy has such potential strength, even though he's he's not Laplace or anything, but he's just I even made the observation back where it's he didn't make Rudy stronger, he just gave him the means to rely on Pergius's power to fulfill Rudy's request, right? Because so similarly, Orsted is also incredibly powerful, so. Pergius is he's careful about that because, he wants to maintain his position because he wants to deal with Laplace, but, Orsted could fuck up his day if he really wanted to. So, it makes sense that he'd be distrusting of him and not willing to, or not, not caring for him, right? Because they don't really share Laplace also is to share the man god, so it's it's a whole, there's a, interesting character relationship chart, I guess, with all the arrows pointing everywhere of which way, how the characters feel about each other and stuff. So
yeah. At the very least, he doesn't care much for Orsted, but he still intermingles with him enough. Maybe it's just because he's a fellow dragon folk, but then it maybe also the one reason he doesn't like him is because he's you're this powerful, but you're not as obsessed with Laplace as I am. Maybe that's why.
Maybe. But I did also forget, because I mentioned Albert not having a personal stake in what's going on, but there was a secret request that he made that I don't think we find out what it was. I forgot about that.
Oh, that is true. Yes, I almost forgot about that. We don't get to know. He's like, are you still going to fulfill that if I do? He's like, yes. He's like, all right. Yeah. So there is something.
Something underneath. Personal there. Yeah, that
showing his true colors. Huh. No pun intended. The peacock blade.
And then there's also he uses the nebulous cross on Rudy, and Rudy survives it. Where Eris notes that facing him in training, she was never able to surpass that move. So there's
this is crazy that the weird things I'll remember. This is the one thing I've always remembered for some reason. Is that dialogue from Eris I was never able to combat that, and it's I had your training, and then of course Orsted's words he was going off of, which is really cool. And what's even cooler is that despite all of that preparation, Rudius still can't completely dodge it, right?
Yeah,
he still can't completely thwart it. His leg almost gets completely cut off. That's cool. And the fact that Albert, he fucking puts up a fight, man. He throws the knife into Eris, so Eris can't.
Yeah, the poison. That's right. Yeah.
Kill. Yeah, and then he's combating Ghislaine, and then Ghislaine finally gets him. When he's dealing with literally three ultra powerful opponents, right? Rudius the Quagmire and two fucking Sword Kings, but he's still holding his own.
He's North Emperor indeed.
Jesus Christ. Yeah. But ultimately, of course, succumbs. I mean, the cards are stacked against him. And the fact that and it's so crazy that Rudius, it's cool. It's a new implementation of stone cannon, but it explodes and it's pretty gruesome. Because of Rudius's technique, Darius, it blinds Darius. He's fucking wounded really bad. It's goddamn Rudius, you got to do it. Kill him. And then we get the it's Ghislaine who actually finishes Darius after she kills Auber.
Yes, and fulfilling her
Rudius,
vengeance.
Yeah, but Rudius is to Rudius, it's all the same. He basically killed Darius as far as he's concerned. So this is, in his mind, his first kill, at least personal up close kill. But yeah, it's cool stuff. Albert's final note is again showing his true swordsman spirit by saying like I think he says something like magnificent when he dies, like it was a good fight, and that's all he's got to say at the end of it. Even though he knows that his personal wish is not going to be fulfilled, he had a good fight. He's a swordsman, magnificent. This is a worthy end of me, the Sword Emperor. Yeah, cool stuff. Yep. Alber's a cool character. Both him and Rada, very, very they only really do. Of course, we get their moments, in the extra chapters.
No, but
before this, but
especially Rada. Think about like how little she's in 2 chapters in this book, right? Like Albers shows up throughout, but Rada's like gets quite a bit, for what little screen time. She drops down monologues about her backstory and then dies. Like that's basically it. But she's still like really good.
But it's but still a very memorable character nonetheless. It's really crazy cool. Like Rifujin is so effective with all the characters. Pileman's another one. Darius is another one. Triss is another one. Just in this volume alone, he executes these characters very effectively, as brief as they are. Very effective. Luke too, of course. We'll get to that, but cool shit.
But we're not quite done yet.
In the fight.
Oh no! Well, after the fight, I was going to go after the fight because we have Palma and Luke.
I don't think I have anything else
the Notus Grey Rat resolution, I guess, where you have Palman groveling to Ariel, and that sort of like not looking good for him as a result, because he just like you were on their side, and that that's not gonna be like because then there's the political game of like how she treats him will reflect how the other nobles see her. Like, is she strong as a ruler or not, right? And then of course that brings Luke in because he the man god grips him, right? Like ultimately even though he's kind of like a bum, so to speak, he's also the sort of the final apostle of the man god, and he's sort of like the last, conflict in the kingdom, right? As a result.
Yeah.
So,
you know what this scene reminds me of? I just now realized, because the scene where it's like he's got these thoughts about, he sees Orsted, evil as fuck. He's like, okay, the man god might be the right one in this, Rudius is following Orsted, I'm following the man god. I think the man god is actually the righteous god in this because that guy, he can only be evil. But then now we got Ariel saying Pileman, you're dead, motherfucker.
Uh-huh.
Like, you dare grovel to me and talk as if you didn't at least have the gumption to own your fucking betrayal. This reminds me of. I don't know how familiar you are with Star Wars. It reminds me of the fucking Anakin scene with Chancellor Palpatine or i.e. the Emperor, and then Mace Windu, where Anakin is like seeing Mace Windu here literally contradict the Jedi code, but he's too dangerous to be kept alive, and Anakin's like, what do I do? And then Anakin ultimately makes the bad decision, just like Luke here.
Okay.
Where it's
that's an interesting.
I don't know why. I just thought of that. That's very very similar.
I saw Revenge of the Sith a few times. I understand. I don't remember that scene. I played some of the tie-in video games. So
because I'm a Star Wars fan.
I get you. I think I saw that one at midnight, at the midnight release.
Oh really?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. That's a crazy one to see at midnight. That's a good fucking movie. Yeah.
But anyway, I was gonna say, because I hadn't thought of. I think Luke is the first character we know to be affected by both the man god and Orsted's curses. Which because I at least like so tangibly, because obviously Reyna would have also been affected by both, but like I feel like with Luke it affected him more in a different way because he's an ally, I guess. So it stands out more to me that he would because he like that's what pushes him, is like he has the trust and faith in the man god because of that curse, but then he also has the distrust and hate of Orsted because of that curse, and once like both of them take effect, that sort of pushes him to put his sword against Ariel's throat, right? So on top of like his dad, of course, but yeah, then also the framing for Sylphie in that scene, I think, with her having such loyalty to Ariel, which sort of like reveals Luke's lack of loyalty and sort of like, helps him push away from that.
Which is ironic. Well, it's ironic you say that too, because like the cool part about this is Luke is doing what he's doing because of his loyalty to Ariel. And matter of fact, to Luke, Ariel is the ultimate, but to Sylphie, Ariel, she, we get the confirmation. Ariel is not her ultimate. It's Rudius.
Yes.
And we already knew that. But the fact of the matter is that even though Ariel is Luke's ultimate, he is not. He's not fulfilling his duty near to the same efficacy as Sylphie is in this moment, despite their convictions being, his convictions being even stronger than Sylphie's, if that makes sense for Ariel. It's really, really cool. Like Ariel is servicing her duty better than Luke, despite Luke's feelings for Ariel being even a little bit stronger than hers. I think that's really fucking cool. And then he makes Sylphie say that, and then Rudius, of course, being Rudius, he's like, "Oh, Sylphie, I will make love to you later. I love you." It's like, Rudius.
And him hiding his smug face when Sylphie mentions, caring about Rudy more, and he's like, "Oh yeah, I'm just gonna hide my smug smile because my wife loves me."
And I love how Luke notices it though, because it's from Luke's perspective. So it's like he's like, "This motherfucker, I hate this motherfucker."
And there's also the talk about like the way Sylphie, the reason Sylphie like lets Rudy have his way even when he's doing things that she doesn't want is because like she does that as a way to take his burden away from him and off of his shoulders, because she knows that like he's making his choices like with everyone in mind, right? So like by taking that part of the burden, by letting him do things that she doesn't want him to do, right, she's helping him because she knows that he ultimately wants what's best for all of them, like even when he's like working for Orsted, for example, right? It's just that good little just good Sylphie stuff in the which it's like I would hope she gets, considering like Ariel's importance of the conflict and her just being here, so it's good that she gets some cool stuff.
Hell yeah.
And of course, Ariel, the master, noble speech crafter that she is, she's able to find a way to keep, manipulate, so that both Luke and Paimon can stay alive even after fucking all that, with like them both doing things that, would be grounds for execution, So, good stuff.
Yeah. No, it's also like, even more than anyone, it's the great moment for Ariel, with like it's like, "What are you, Luke?"
Yes.
It's like, man, that's sick, Ariel. You're sick. And I love how because of the decision, now Eris can't kill Paimon, and then I love now Ghislaine can't kill Paimon, and but then Eris is like, which is noted. Persona and Linnea have said this much. It's like, boss, do not grab our tail. That's like the worst thing you can do. And then what does Eris fucking do? She grabs Ghislaine by the tail. She's like, Ghislaine, we've already gotten revenge. Okay, we got revenge of your grandfather. You should be satisfied. But Ghislaine's just like, "Okay, Eris, all right, little lady, all right, I'll stand down." I think it's so funny that she's like a little bit subservient to Eris because of their, she's honor bound. That relationship, that dynamic with her and Eris has still stayed the same in her mind, like where Eris is the lady she's sworn to defend, kind of thing.
Yeah, though of course, as we find out when they part ways, is like Eris has surpassed Ghislaine, so not that was necessarily a factor, but it is like still worth noting that she is the stronger of the two now. So which also means she could.
Ghislaine's past her prime too.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I didn't get any indication of that from the reading.
Probably not.
Because the Golfarian even said that if Eris were to beat Ghislaine, she could claim the title of Sword Emperor if she felt like it, right?
Sure.
And she's done that now. So if she didn't, if she gave a shit about the title, she would be called Sword Emperor.
Yeah.
Kind of like how Rudy's like Emperor of like fucking at least 2 classes of magic if he wanted to be, right? And never mind, just obviously old Rudy just developing straight up new classes of magic.
Finally Rudy acknowledges it and mentions it at some part in this reading. He goes, no, now that I think about it, Bodyguard did tell, because he was like, "Oh yeah, by the way, I'm like I'm now whatever tier in all of the schools of magic, right? Like I've learned." He
ups his wind and fire. Yeah, or no, he gets another Emperor level spell, but he also mentions upping his wind and fire capabilities. But then he's like, "Oh, now that I think about it, I guess I was already an Emperor tier." Oh, that's right.
What Bodyguard said, And it's like yes, Rudius, finally. 'Cause I remember I was talking to you about how it was so funny way back in volume 11. And he's like, well, I am a Saint class water mage, just like Rudius. Bro.
Yeah, like he only cares about the title Roxy gave him. Of course he fucking does.
Yeah, of course. It's funny.
But we also get so Orsted talks with Rudy after the fact, and that's when he mentions the time loop stuff. Because I was like, oh, so if his time loop lasts 200 years, that means like if he's 2,000 years old, then this is attempt 11. And it's like no. He's done this literally hundreds of times. He stopped counting. Yeah. It's like, oh, so the 2,000 years old was a low ball. All right. Yeah. And also just the fact that he was like not being forthcoming with Rudy because he didn't trust him, because the possibility existed that Rudy would betray him. And as I believe is the case, it's not impossible for Rudy to find a way to kill Orsted, right? As we even see with the old Rudy, like in the diary that he fucking read, that like Rudy was like he wanted to find Orsted, right? And he could have killed Perugius and all these other strong characters, right? So, yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, cool shit. He's a looper. He's a looper.
Yep.
He's our Subaru of Mushoku Tensei. Our guy.
Yep.
But hey, Isold says hello.
Yes.
The next day.
Her sort of working through, having lost her, fucking Rada, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah, I guess we don't get to see the interactions, but Rudius does actually join Isold and Eris, so one can only hope that during that time, Isold, is like, oh, Rudius is kind of cool, I accept this. This, just like Norn had to.
Or Cliff, right? Yeah.
Cliff, yeah, all the Millis people. And then. Yeah, Rufujin kind of skims over it, I guess, which is good because seeing more Rudius and Sylphie like go to dinner to the Boreas house, but Eris is not invited. So
yep. Rip Bozo.
Yeah, Rip Bozo. They do not even consider Rudius more of them than Eris, who's a true Boreas.
Or I think Rudy specified it where it's more like that like inviting her might. Maybe they see Rudy as more like usable or more like able to like, because Eris is obviously so headstrong. Like even as a child, she had a reputation, right? Like I forget who it was, but there was another character who like mentioned hearing about Eris who hadn't met her and stuff because of her reputation as a kid, right? So it's like it's not like she's in that way she's changed very much as an adult, right? So like in that way, Rudy is definitely more of a like reasonable to imagine as an ally than Eris. So
yeah, no, I'm pretty sure. Honestly, I think it was actually Ariel. That's the one character.
Ariel, okay, gotcha.
That was like, oh yeah, I've heard a lot about you.
That was probably it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. I couldn't remember. Yeah.
Yeah, there probably was someone else though too.
There could have been, yeah.
Then like, yeah, Eris, I remember you. Talks of you. And then oh, I guess Rudius talks to Pergius, and he's like, oh yeah, I can just revive him. It's okay. I had fun.
Yeah, the spirits.
You guys entertained me. Goodbye. I'm back to my Florida Fortress.
Boop.
Okay. See you, Pergius. Yeah.
That's the sound that Pergius' teleportation makes. But anyway. Then they get home, unless you have something else to say back at Ars, in the Arsur Kingdom.
Yeah, because we already discussed like Ariel talking to Rudius, being perverted, and then the stuff with the
Sylphie getting mad at their flirting because it's like, fucking excuse me, I'm right here. Because I'm ready.
Yeah, and then you talked a little bit about the training session. I love the training. I love this sequence where it's like Delaine's she just doesn't say anything. She just has two swords, and Rudius and Eris automatically they're like, okay, our last go.
Yeah.
They just like they don't even have to exchange words. It's just like old times, man. I love this series. And then they go through the motions, but then Ghislaine at the very end is like, all right, get out of here, Rudius. It's fucking time. And it's like, how fucking Eris is about to break down in the moment, and trying to remain composed, but can barely do it. Ghislaine is happy that her student has finally surpassed her.
Yeah,
that's good shit. But then later we get like the because of the teleportation circle. Like it's like Eris is like, I cried for nothing, and then she punches Rudius as if like the fault is his for her emotions. That's classic Eris. Classic Eris.
Yeah. And there's also like Sylphie resolving that she wants to stay at home and support, because like obviously Eris can go out on these adventures, but she, wants to stay home and be the domestic, do support Rudy in a way that Eris can't, right? Like, because that's what she recognized with Eris, that she can do something they can't, but she wants to double down in the area. Now that everything with Ariel is resolved, she wants to focus on the area that she can really support Rudy, right? So yeah.
Yeah, and then I love how that gives Rudius some perspective. He's like, well, maybe I should buckle up like her, because with her now kind of watching my back with the family, maybe I should not be too worried about the future and just focus on the now and what I'm doing now and living in the moment and kind of doing everything I can right now for work related or and family related.
Yeah,
being there as much as possible, being present, not being the guy who's constantly like thinking about and can't tell anyone anything and is always lying to everyone, right?
Yeah.
Like. Yeah, so that's really cool.
Anyway, but then they get home, and speaking about worrying about the present, Roxy is adorable. They have, and they're fucking like.
I almost forgot. Yeah.
Her being
the
like fucking embarrassed about it, and but I didn't want to show it to you because you said, "Boy, hey, your belly button is the best," and I was like,
classic.
Prove that you love it by licking it, and it's like, oh my fucking god, what's wrong with you?
It's so funny
it's
too,
so
because
cute.
like
Good. It's so funny.
Instantaneous, like she's like, okay, I believe you. Like just you like it, I believe you.
Yeah. Good shit. I don't know what else happens in the last chapter that I have to say about.
Him visiting Paul's grave. It's really fucking cute. It's really great. It's a really it's a callback to into volume 12. He's doing it again. He's just he's essentially recounting what he has before, but he's also saying at the same time, like, hey, there are no casualties, but there are so many instances where there easily could have been.
Right. So he wants to find ways to improve and grow, so that he doesn't have close victories. He, has clear victories, right? So, so as to not worry. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's cool. Getting to see, and then this kind of extends into volume 18 because at the beginning he's like writing a letter to Paul, and we'll get to that because there's a specific instance in there where it's like it's so funny. He's like, Rudius, what the fuck? But
are you talking about the diary?
No, because I guess it is in his diary, isn't it? He writes it like a letter to Paul.
Yeah,
I guess it is in his diary.
Yeah, it was. That's what the chapter was. But yeah, we'll get to that in a minute. Because first we have the extra chapter where
I love how this is written. I love how it's just like he's like, and then he's being a regular drunkard, but then it's like, and then now he's like talking to his imaginary friend. But wait, the way he's talking, it really does sound like there's someone on the other end there that I can't hear.
Yeah, because
holy shit.
Yeah, so I imagine what's going on. So I'm just gonna say what I seem to gather from the context is that the man god is impersonating Paul as he talks to Geese, and he's getting Geese as his apostle. That's my. That was what, because I'm trying to think of like who, because he seems to be going after Rudy. He seems to already know him, but there's this other person he's talking to that he seems to like care about more than Rudy, and it's like, well, Geese checks all those boxes. And he's also has a reason to be drunk at a bar because he's like, he's out alone, doesn't have an
it's interesting that you say that, given that, it would be kind of surprising if he's talking to Paul. It's like, oh, you want to go after your own son, Yeah,
exactly. Right.
But it doesn't seem to question it. Yeah.
But of course, which is like, it's, I feel like, one thing that we absolutely get from this chapter is it's the fucking man god, right? Like even the fact that the next book even mentions like, where's the third apostle, right? It seems to be like, and that if it is the man god, that means like this person would have absolute faith and trust in him based on the curse, right? So there's no real, even if it's fucking absurd, like Paul wanting to kill Rudy, right? Like he accepts it because it's the man god, right? Like that's my interpretation of what. Obviously, I have no fucking actual idea of what it is, and God knows when it'll actually get. Presumably, maybe not even the next volume, but I would assume so because that's the man god's next play, right? But I don't fucking know. I'll find out in the next reading, I assume.
You'll find out.
Yes.
Eventually.
Because I guess like there could only be 2 apostles of the man god in the next reading, and the third one's still out there doing God knows what. So this third one rather. So, but yeah, we'll see. We'll see what it was, and I'll probably reread this chapter after I do know who it was, so I could be like, oh, there it is. Maybe. So yeah.
And yeah, I love the little note. Like, it's like the bartender sees it like that. His final words is like, they seem so sober. Like he had like a moment of sobriety where he's like, well, guess I gotta fucking kill him. And then he's like, what the fuck? And then he looks back and there's no one there. He's already left. It's like, oh shit. What's gonna happen in the future?
Yeah. Did this guy just make a deal with the devil?
Man.
Like, oh boy, which is also interesting to see how this person perceives the man god without perceiving the man god. Is like, oh, if not for his curse, he would certainly appear as a devil, right? Though he did take extra precaution with Rudy, just because Rudy isn't affected by the curse, right? Like having to earn his trust first. Like he had that much awareness, So yeah. Ah, boy. Honestly, just a random note on like what I like about this conflict, because I was thinking about it because I've been reading it's currently the highest rated manhwa / webtoon on my anime list, at least the most popular Korean webtoon. I don't know if there's other ones that are higher rated than it, but the Greatest Estate Developer. And one thing that's not it's okay. I have some gripes with it, but one of the things I was thinking about, because I feel like basically like he has so many advantages because he has knowledge from it. Basically he in his world, he dies, and he takes the place of a character in a fictional story that he knows about, like a kind of Yamcha. He's just kind of a fuck up who dies early on, and through his knowledge, he's able to and various other advantages, he's able to increase his lot in the world heavily. But one thing I was thinking about in the conflict, and again comparing it to Mushoku Tensei because I'm going through it at the same time, is that like this character in Greatest Estate Developer, he's basically like a small person fighting against fighting in a relatively high-powered setting and stuff, and finding advantages through his knowledge and stuff, and other he's got other powers and stuff. It's not exactly the most satisfying to me, a lot of the conflict resolution. And I was thinking about like one of the things I think about is neat about Mushoku Tensei is that because Rudy is also from another world and stuff, but like there's this imbalanced like asymmetrical conflict between the man god and Orsted that Rudy's involved with, where he's fighting against this very powerful manipulator, and alongside another, like and Orsted has his curse holding him back, but he also has like the time loop stuff, and I don't know, I think the fact that like you have these multiple characters with different advantages, or like Nanahoshi as well being summoned, and having her circumstances around that. Like, it's just interesting to see the interplay between these various circumstances, where in Greatest Estate Developer, there's only one character with unique circumstances, so it's not as interesting to me, I guess. So I just wanted to highlight that while talking about the man god and stuff, and how I do think it's interesting, and watching it play out is neat. And with all the
it's better than everything else.
Sure.
True.
Not what I was saying, but okay.
Yeah, but as a Mushoku Tensei stan, that's what I hear, of course.
All right.
Mushoku Tensei, the best. It's goated.
Anyway, we have to somehow talk about Volume 18 to surpass the last discussion, because I was even looking at all the discussions lined up together, and they just increase like episode by episode. Like it's like an hour and a half, an hour and 50 minutes, 2 hours and 20 minutes, 2 hours and 40 minutes, 3 hours and 40 minutes, and it's like, okay, we're gonna break that chain. I think unless we talk about this volume 18 for 1 hour, which
I doubt it. I think we're gonna have the least to say.
Probably like a half an hour at most.
The diary entry is great.
Dude,
it's a lot of information about the family stuff.
Mm-hmm.
This is what I was going to say earlier. I love how he's like, oh yeah, the one person you probably are the most curious about, Norn. Yeah, she's doing all right, but enough about Norn.
You piece of shit.
He says, all he says is like, Norn's doing okay. Enough about Norn. But it's, at first I was like, what the fuck, Reese? But then I realized, I was like, oh, he was probably just starting to write about Norn. But as soon as he was getting back to it, Eris had just become pregnant. So of course that's all he could think about, and that was all in his mind. I was like, that's funny, that's cute.
That makes sense.
I gotta talk about Eris and her pregnancy.
I also love Rudy taking Lucy to Orsted. Which
that's so
because
cute.
he wanted to
Yes.
test his like the curse not working on his descendants, and Lucy's like, "Daddy," and
Daddy.
or
And then Rudy is like, honestly, I immediately thought about killing Orston. It's like, that's hilarious.
I love the Rudy Lucy dynamic right now, but yeah, like just the fact and like Orsted being happy about it, and just Lucy being there because like and taking a liking to someone who is just like unashamedly and honestly like enjoys being around him, which he like never gets, is just so it's so cute and good. But yeah, just lots of I don't know, good way to just quickly because like I'm pretty sure this volume takes like because I think it was like what 1 year for volume 16, no maybe it wasn't that long, but then we just get a year time skip between from the last chapter of volume 17 and then the first chapter of volume 18 through the diary. And it was just a good way to get through a bunch of information like, oh yeah, Eris got pregnant because she stopped training as hard and her body was able to actually foster a child, or Lara and Clive Grimoire being born.
I love that little excerpt where it's like Rudius overhears Sylphie and Eris talking about her inability to get pregnant, and Eris is like, I wonder if we should be going at it more often. And Rudius is like, no, please, spare me.
More often. I just like one of those, like what the meme with it's like the shriveled up mummy. Like I just imagine that as
okay,
Rudy
yeah.
After,
I was gonna say it reminds me because I was literally about to say another meme where it's like the one where it's like the male lion like trying to run away from the female lioness, and then she's like grabbing his balls, like biting it down.
Yeah.
He looks so defeated and
oh
weak.
God. I think I have seen the image years ago, but
yeah.
Oh man.
That's good stuff. What else? There's a lot in just this.
And that said, I don't think I have that much to say about but there are a lot of different things happening. Like I think the first.
Oh yeah, well because we already mentioned that the Lara, like how Lara has Roxy's hair and eye color, but she's got Rudius's like what was the characteristic that Rudius said? According to Lilia, she's got Rudius's smug little like smuggish kind of face.
I think that was it. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's cute. That's cool. And that is our goat. That is our hero. She's born.
And then the first chapter where you have Angie and Rudy are saving these characters, and you just have it from their perspective, and just seeing how fucking like insane Rudy looks, and just seeing that heroism of him saving the wife, and then just the fucking punchline because she's like fucking flustered and in love, and like holy shit, this guy's great, like living out Roxy's fantasy of being saved by an adventurer, right? And then he pulls out the panties and starts fucking sniffing them like crazy, his fucking woman repellent, and I'm just like, brother in Christ, what's wrong with you?
Like, I mean, better alternative than bringing in a
I know, I agree, but also like I just like that's how we start the volume. That's how we fucking amazing.
It's the best way to start.
It's the best
way. I
applaud. Oh God, like
that's my goat. That's my goat right there. That's my goat.
Oh Lord. Oh,
he's trying not to fuck up again. He's trying not to fuck up again. You got to do what you got to do, even if it's at the cost of your dignity.
Replica Roxy panties. Oh God. Oh man. Oh what? And then he's just passing out the Ruijerd propaganda.
Propaganda. True. Oh, God, that's funny.
But anyway, oh man,
it's a fun chapter. Getting to see Rudius from a woman's perspective whenever he saves people like a gallant knight. Getting the description of like how he just like grabbed the fucking thing. It's like, wow, wait, how is Rudius doing that? We don't know how he should. It's like, and then later on we get like, oh, I'm wearing the version 2 magic armor right now. That we've been working on the lighter version. Mm-hmm. It's like, oh, okay, cool. He wears that now. Nice.
Yeah. And of course, just like here's this circumstance and the struggle they're going through and why they're out here adventuring when Rudy saves them, and then of course it's one of Orsted's missions. Like they've been doing a lot of work this last year or so, and Rudy continues to do more deeds to lead to a better future for them. So yeah.
Yeah. Obviously, that it was a really entertaining chapter, nonetheless. One-off characters, but like many characters Rudius is saving, is there are people that are going to be important for Orsted's larger goal, and it's kind of that's Rudius's job. He's an errand boy for a guy making preparations for the future that Rudius is not going to be a part of. It's kind of interesting when you put it into perspective, man. It's like that's a story. It's like Rudius is not that guy. He's a worker. It's the point. He's not jobless anymore. He's got a job, and his job is very, like, arguably right now in the current age where he's in. It's the most important fucking job. He's a really good worker for the most important job in his new world. Like, now that when I put it that way, you know what? Hell, that's fucking cool. Jobless reincarnation. Hell yeah.
Well, unless you subscribe to the idea that destroying the man god will actually destroy the world, in which case he's doing the worst job, because he's literally the demon king.
And he should have remained jobless. Yeah.
But obviously, as I expressed, I think that's the man god's bullshit. But then Orsted did say it's a possibility. Because just thinking about
Orsted's not like the good guy, right?
Like thinking about like how the Orsted is in a sense destined to win, because as long as he doesn't give up, right? Because he has the time loops. But like the man god is sort of like responding to everything that he does. So there's just this sort of repeat. He's basically playing chess against like Deep Blue or some other supercomputer and just getting better at chess, right? But then the computer is obviously having to respond. It's changing in response to his actions. So it's just like, I don't know. It's an interesting asymmetrical conflict, like I said. So that said, as far as battles go, Lucy is very weak to unshaven Rudy and his scratchies.
So sad. Poor Rudius, man. Poor Rudius.
Well, funny. I actually remember one New Year's where my dad hadn't shaven in a couple days, and he deliberately hugged me and my brother, not at the same time, but with his scratchies, and I vividly remember that, and I definitely thought about that when reading this, where it's like, yep, been there. I know your discomfort.
Many times. My father was very, very affectionate.
I see, and his scratchies gotcha. I see.
I was like, fuck you, Dad. I was actually, it's funny, I didn't even think about it this way. I was a lot like Lucy as a kid. Apparently, from a very early age, I was like the guy that was like, I'm too old for you trying to kiss me and shit, apparently, when I was like really young, according to my dad. It made him really sad, apparently. Well, I'm sorry.
Now you hurt him just like Lucy hurt Rudy, because now you're seeing his perspective through Rudy of just like wanting to love the shit out of your adorable daughter, and then she just wants nothing to do with you, and it's like, it hurts just a little bit. So I am hoping that turns around for him, but who knows when or how.
We see a little bit of that at the near the end of volume 18.
True.
He's kind of warming up to him. Yeah. But what was I going to say? Oh, this reminds me. Okay, there is a distinct image that people use on Twitter all the time. Okay, it's Rudius holding Lucy, and on one side, and the other side is like old, like his past life, the name that we will never, maybe never know, the fat, Rudius from the real world. It's like, and it's like a side by side image, and it's like sad pedophile, happy pedophile. That's what people use to slander Mushoku Tensei. Believe it or not, though, I think it's so funny. I love the Mushoku Tensei fandom because they're just like me. I've seen more diehard Mushoku Tensei fans posting that meme than like actual people who hate Mushoku Tensei.
Yeah, because I mean, they're doing it tongue in cheek. They're doing it tongue in cheek, right? Because obviously it's like, I get it. Yeah.
It's kind of funny. Sad pedophile, happy pedophile. that's the only progression. It's funny. Anyway.
But anyway, so there's I was thinking about I don't know, because just shit, I think you mentioned something earlier, but I forgot what it was. But I was just thinking about like, I mean, earlier today, but obviously earlier in the podcast, you talked about like Rudy, and the slaves, and not really thinking about Ruijerd and stuff. But then, as we see, Eris has carried on that will, like right, like Rudy will, even if he did think about it, ultimately he decided he has his family to protect. But Eris sees some guys fucking around with Linnea, and he's like, well, now there's 4 of you because because she split them in half. But
a little bit of a personal, personal desire kind of in there, because she sees, it's a cat girl, and she's like, ooh.
Yeah, of course. But yeah, I do like the guys who come to the door, and like one of them just doesn't know who Rudy is, and he's like trying to be threatening, and it's like the other guy's like, dude, you need to calm down, dude.
Bro,
dude.
This is the fire, man. Chill. They got the Berserker Sword King in there too, bro.
Like,
this house is stacked, bro.
Dude,
don't do it,
dude. It's so funny.
Yeah, dude, like Guardian Fitz, fucking Berserker Sword King, fucking
Water King Roxy,
King class, yeah, Water King Roxy, like, bro, like, talk about a stacked household.
Dude,
like,
Leo, incredibly powerful spirit. Like, you just, and then as we find, obviously she's not like powerful, but like Aisha and Norn have power, like they're both capable as leaders, as we come to see in this reading, right? So
I don't know why I hadn't just thought of that. Yeah, both of them, like, in different ways, have really good capacity for leadership.
Like, one is the dark and one is the light. They're Naruto and Sasuke.
Oh my god, true, bro. But
or Legosi and Lewis
sisters.
In Beastars, which I don't think you've gone through Beastars, but similar light and dark dynamic.
I've heard only great things about it. I need to read that shit.
But anyway,
maybe that could even be on the.
if we do, I think a good time to, because I've been wanting to watch the anime, because I reread the manga relatively recently, and it's one of my favorites. I love it a lot, but the anime just released the first half of the last season, so maybe when the rest of it drops, that would be a good time for I could rewatch it, and you can watch it for the first time, and that'd be cool, because I love Beastars. Let's fucking go. Anyway, but yeah, I was going to mention the way he resolves that with money. It just reminded me of him getting a lot of money from Orsted, where it's like, because nothing in the world's for free, but there's also like, if you're too overly compensated, there's a level of which like what do I have to do to make up for it? So like he keeps giving him money. He's like, do you want more? And they're like, no, this is fine. We'll leave. We'll take our 1,500 and get skedaddle, right? So I just thought I had that comparison of like Rudy paying for what Orsted gave him, like in 2 ways, I guess, both the money and the feeling of being overpaid.
It is a really cool psychological tactic. Really, really cool. And then I love the Lilia, where she's like, my lord, that was epic. And he's like, okay. My lord, epic, man of the house moment. Good shit. Like, hell yeah. Although man of the house until Eris walks up.
Just the way, because obviously like Linnea is like boss, but Eris is like, you're mine now.
She's like, help me, boss. Is like, oh, sorry, bro. You're in the grip of the Berserker Sword King. There's no help to be found for me.
But a little bit more than that. But then we go back to the school in chapter 3. So if there's anything you want to say about chapters 1 and 2, let me know before I move on.
Not really. No.
Okay. Because I was gonna say, I love how they go to the school. And he's not Rudy anymore. He's Roxy's husband and Norn's older brother, because he's been away for so long. Like, he's technically still a student here. He hasn't graduated, but he's not really taking classes anymore. He's just, and like, everyone loves Norn. And I love when she sees Rudy and falls, and it's like, yeah, but the fact that you get up and you do your best anyway is why people love you. But also, she's adorable.
Let's fucking go, Norn.
Though
Let's
I
go,
do,
Norn.
the fact that they introduced like what it's like the Rayfort, Minal, and I didn't write down his name, but Prince Grabble's son, like a human, an elf, and a dwarf. I feel like, are they gonna come back to the school and do stuff with these characters or what? Because well, even just the interesting inversion, the fact that like Prince Grapple's son is here like almost in quasi exile, like Ariel was in quasi exile when
exactly.
she, so but I don't know, it's and it feels like it's setting up stuff, but it's also like it's hard for me to envision Rudy just like going back to school when he has shit to do. So
yeah,
I don't know. Still neat.
Is there anything that I want to say about the chapter 3 stuff? Other than what you've already said? No, I guess not. Not much to say. I mean, it's just like, it's cool. It's cool for Norn, and I love how Rudius like acknowledges that, like, man, yeah, Norn is, I gave Norn a lot of freedom, and I thought she might be too stacked, but she really proved herself. I'm proud of her. We're proud of her.
It's funny you use that word because I mean, it's on the cover too, but like Aisha becoming a bit of a short stack, stacked in that way.
Yeah, she's right on her mom's heels.
Yes,
with the big bosom. The big bosom. Norn's got a lot of catching up to do right now on that department. Yeah,
because I don't know, it like the chapters kind of lead into each other, so it's kind of hard to talk about them independently. But you have like Linnea. Because it's like she tries her hand at the housekeeping, but she completely fails at everything. And because they even talk about like the idea of like because they want to start the business and to support Orsted, and he's like, oh, maybe we should use a slave for it. And it's like Linnea, every time they brought it up, I was like, well, Linnea seems perfect for it because she tried to be a businessman, but obviously she failed. So it's like, and she fails at everything. But the way Rudy spins it to learning experience for Aisha of her being someone who can manage others and not just casting away because she's so talented, right? She has like less ability to like respect, like to respect the failure of others because she herself like tries so hard and excels so well because she's so smart. So Rudy turning that and then her spinning it into the mercenary thing and then becoming like a fucking yakuza of Renoa, or the kingdom, the magic kingdom rather. It's just like well, that happened. She's so good.
Well, the last thing I want to mention on chapter 3, I love like the realization moment where Norn comes. She's like big brother, and then all of them are like, oh wait, this is oh shit. They're like, oh fuck.
He just politely didn't say anything. Like it's just I do like when like an example in like One Piece is when Luffy is disguised as like Lucy and he's just being really strong, where like characters don't recognize who they're dealing with, and then having that realization when like when like Luffy one shots Hajuru and then it's like oh, this guy's really strong, or Lucy rather, and then obviously in this case where it's like wait, you're oh, okay. So I don't know, it's always fun to watch that just flip in perspective, and seeing people who like look down on others getting a sort of comeuppance, right? So
I guess talk about the next chapter. There's research shit going on. They're researching Orsted's shit.
Yes, the curse. The helmet, that's right. Where it's like, I literally can't wear this without like suffocating, so it needs work.
It's funny that like Orsted is being put through so much shit that is so new to him, and it's just like he's just kind of going along with it. It's just kind of cute for Orsted, man.
His personality just being like, because he has this kind of like perma scowl, right? Like in the previous like now Rudy's better able to read his mood, but like a couple volumes ago it was like he's scary or he's scary-er, right? But now
he's in a good mood when he's playing with Lucy. It's like, oh
yeah. So I was just thinking about like just like the way Orsted's like personality and demeanor is affected by like his time loops, right? Where he's become so detached. Like I imagine he just sees a lot of like the world just so objectively because he has no problem killing lives because like he knows how things are gonna go, right? He knows the general trajectory of the world, right? So he's just like, but then Rudy's able to, in a sense, like give him these new perspectives, and like he's gone through this shit so many times, right? Like he's lost. Maybe he was more human, 200 loops ago or 300. I don't know how many times he's looped, right? So and I was just wondering. Just something I was thinking about. I mean, that's it. Like Perugius is also
he's never been human in actuality.
True, but more because I was actually just thinking about Perugius also being a dragon folk and him having a similar like reserved personality, but he's also Perugius is technically much younger, but he's still very long lived and quote unquote like he literally lives above it all, right? So like he doesn't like the nobility and stuff. So I don't know. They have their particular circumstances, but they're both interesting because we also get Aisha apparently paid respects to Perugius, and Perugius kind of liked her, and she was just like, yeah, he was pretty cool, and it's just like just being chill about it, and it's like, Aisha, you're terrifying and awesome. So she's so good.
And then I love the little ode of respect Orsted gives to Cliff at the end of the scene where he's like, Cliff Grimoire, like thanks, you're like you're pretty useful, man. You're pretty cool.
Yeah.
I never expected you to do this in any loop. And Cliff's like, of course, I'm a genius. In classic fashion.
Yeah.
It's cool stuff.
Fuck! I completely skipped over Eris's scheme because obviously she likes Linnea because Linnea is like a beast folk, and she's like, yeah, let's go. And so she like comes up with her scheme to rise Linnea's rank in the family by trying to arrange for sexy times and pregnancy, hopefully.
Oh, yeah. Has that already happened before we...
That happened in chapter 4. I wrote that down. Even her perspective where it's like, it's not cheating on your wives if it's a slave, right? Because she came up in the Boreas Grey Rat family, and they had lots of beast folk servants and slaves, so of course she'd have this perspective. But it's also like Rudy doesn't really agree because even if Linnea is technically a slave, he thinks of slaves differently by virtue of him coming from this other world, I would think, right? Like I think it applies like with Julie, it comes up especially with Julie later, right? So I did forget to mention that earlier, but
it's funny too because she's just like,
well, and the way
Rudius, it's like
Harris,
what the fuck?
And the way it comes in later when Linnea is like updating Persenna on everything, and she's like she's telling the truth, but wording it in a way that insinuates that like she's Rudy's woman, right? And just like Persenna being like, what? How could? And I just thought they're fucking stupid.
It's great. It's great. Julie, she's period time. She's grown up.
Because
everyone's panicking.
Yeah, you skipped ahead a little bit because you also have the Rudy Perugius conversation, with where they talk about Laplace and Rudy's descendant potentially being Laplace. I think that happens earlier, right? Or maybe it doesn't. Maybe I'm wrong. What chapter does that happen in?
Where they're discussing
Julie, Julie and Zanaba. You mentioned.
I think that happens before what you're talking about.
Okay, got it. I was just wondering by number if you remembered, but never mind. It's fine.
Yeah, maybe not. I don't really know.
It's okay. I was thinking about the Julie stuff that happens later. You're right.
I'm just talking about like the little scene where he goes to visit Zenoba, and is like, and Zenoba's panicking because Julie is bleeding.
Yes,
that
was earlier on. You're right. Yeah.
Yeah, and then Rudius is like, oh yeah, she's grown up. Okay, and then they talk more about the magic armor. And then we get the we get the information that right now he functions like a kind of like a Saint class swordsman. At the current magic armor version 2's level. So it's interesting. Cool little power scaling note we get from Refugen. Thank you. I'm sure the power scales love that, Refugen.
I'm up to the Perugius talk if you have anything else to bring up from before that. I don't get it. Okay. Yeah, because they talk about the Perugius just being up front where it's like, I wanted to check if your child is Laplace, and I do intend to kill them. And but then I think they resolve it as like we'll cross that bridge when it comes to it, because also I don't know, I imagine because Laplace is half of his original self, right? So there's a level at which is he just like a force of nature, or is he still a person that can be convinced otherwise, right? Because like especially the fact that like his goal is to defeat the, or like has put in the comments is like he wants to destroy man because of the man god, right? But maybe like they share a goal, right? Like in theory, like I'm just imagining, because by Orsted, like, oh, that's what I was gonna ask earlier, because Orsted said no, your descendants won't bring about Laplace, but so I guess if he has a reason to think that, it's because he knows when Laplace comes about in the future, right? But there's also the possibility that, like, it's not guaranteed because Lara already displaced the previous hero, so it's maybe not impossible for one of Rudy's because I do know that there is I believe Rudy, or well, there's a spoiler with Rudy and Sylphie, and they're gonna have more kids, right? So I'm just wondering, like, well, if they were to have a kid with green hair, maybe it is Laplace, right? Like there's that because maybe they just the fact, so I guess I have reason to not just take Orsted's words at face value, but I don't think it's gonna happen. But like just by like first, especially the fact that if they're like, if Rifujin does want to tell this story in the future, then I mean. Sure, having a blood conflict would be interesting, of having Lara against Laplace through Roxy's child and Sylphie's child, but I don't think that's gonna happen. I don't know. It feels weird to imagine, but maybe, I don't know. So I was sorry. I was just remembering my previous like question and then coming to an answer. So never mind me. But yeah. But yeah, and they do talk about Lara having the special destiny with Leo, and then Leo protecting her, which they also talk about later with the Beast Folk. But also, I don't know, definitely recontextualizes the bad timeline with Roxy specifically catching the petrification thieves because she's pregnant with Lara, right? And so like her having the destinies of pregnant women being more nebulous, and her being vulnerable, and ultimately like this hero dying as a result, right? So I don't know, just felt a little bit more significant looking in retrospect. So yeah,
for sure,
but yeah, then
there's a lot I could talk about, but I'm gonna kind of skim some stuff because a lot of this stuff is not super important.
Yeah, I don't really have like my favorite part was the Julie chapters, like pretty comfortably, I think. So yeah.
Definitely for me too. Yeah, I'd say so. Well, other than that, just getting the confirmation, the Lara stuff, confirmation.
Yes,
on
that
her
was cool.
Because like, oh hey, this is the hero of the story. That's neat.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess we can talk about the Doldia Village. Yeah, that's some cool shit.
For fucking
Geese is like is he's like mellowed out. He's a cool guy. It's nice. It's cool shit.
Yeah, and then
we get the two girls that Eris really bonded with, or they're growing up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I like the detective shit with Persenna. Like, who's the culprit? It was Persenna.
He's like, all right, well, that's okay. It's pretty clearly Persenna.
But they did realize it enough to realize like, oh well, it's like, yeah, even if it was her fault, it wasn't like ill-spirited. It was actually just like a bad bout of circumstances that and their rigidity over their rules, right? Where I guess thinking about it now, I hadn't really considered how it's like, because I brought up like sort of freedom or stability conflict in their duel, right? Like they were basically choosing like which of them gets to go back to the stability of Doldia Village, and which of them has to deal with the freedom in the outside world. And they both sort of suffer the negative consequences of that, right? Like Linnea, in her freedom, fucks up of her own, with no one else responsible for that but herself, and becomes a slave. Persenna goes back to the rigidity of Doldia and ends up getting thrown in jail for crimes because of that rigidity, right? Like she literally like isn't allowed food when she really kind of needed it because like they have strict rules, right? So I hadn't thought about that.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Other than that, Persona, Rudius convinces Geese. He didn't really have to convince him because Geese was already like, "Please take her."
But then, of course, with the honor, because they like the way they bring up like going back to look over the sacred beast is like honestly like more of an honor than staying to be the leader, right? So in a
Yeah.
way, it's like they're giving Presena a great opportunity here, but it's like, yeah, the Dolia tribe will eventually need a leader, and Presena is one of the best options. So her having this chance to like get her shit together outside of the village where she's a disaster, apparently. That said, they're gonna have to worry. They will have mating season coming up, but
Yeah, and I love the little part, like, we get clarification where he's like, well, I mean, the hero is not supposed to do shit for this many years. Like, a human will already be dead by then, but it's like, oh no, she's actually part meagered, like half meagered, so she'll live probably quite a bit longer. It's like, oh, okay, well, that makes sense.
Yep.
Okay. All right, you Sacred Beast, he can chill. You can chill.
And I love how he's just like boof, and then they're like pulling full paragraphs out of that, like.
And I love how he's like, Rudy's just saying like, I don't speak like Woofanese, or I don't speak, whatever. It's
silly.
Or the one-liners from Rudy's are always great. I always love them.
God. But yeah, then I'm ready to talk about the Julie chapters.
Yeah. Not much else to say.
Because
the Other Slave is these chapter titles.
Yeah, well, because for some, I just thought like, you know, because obviously you have like Rudy and Zanaba like from their perspective of like, Julie is acting really weird, and then like as we find out, they had the conversation of like, she is a slave, but if she has been secretly working to buy her freedom, it's like we're gonna give her that to her, right? And Zanaba obviously not wanting to, but it's like, you know, they have no reason not to because they do care about her, and if that's what she really wants, then they'll give that to her. And just, you know, that was really cool. But then seeing everything from her perspective and her like parents and being, you know, failures as businessmen because like their craft isn't really fit for their method of distribution. Like they just, you know, so they had to sell themselves into slavery because of their debts, and it was falling down. And Julie suffering for that, and then being treated with this kindness by Rudy and Zanaba, and that being like when she is, oh, do you want to be freed? Is that what you want? And her like crying like no, like she did something wrong, and showing them the figurine that she made of what appears to be Ariel, right? Like that's what it looked like to me. But it's just woman, at least, because they don't actually describe the figurine in text, I don't think. Trying to find the picture.
They don't. No,
yeah.
No, they don't. Yeah.
But there's
a little bit in the illustration.
Yeah, I would guess it's Ariel based on like the long hair with the bow and the dress.
That's the first thing I thought when I saw it. Yeah,
but
I don't.
But they don't confirm it because she would have been at the school for so long and seen Ariel a lot as student council president, right? So I imagine that's like, you know, it's within reason. Especially she's a newly crowned, like functionally like she's the newly crowned king, right? So it's like. You know, so if she heard that down the grapevine, like she might have thought about her again, and yeah, I could see that, and you know, but yeah, they don't really describe it aside from it being like a masterwork, right? I love the sort of like her just feeling it was weird as she's making it and being like, it's weird because it's perfect. I haven't done that before, and just, you know, I don't know, it was a neat, that bit, and then of course just the resolution. God, like the recontextualization of like her fear of Rudy. Because like, and just her seeing that scene from her perspective was really good, because like obviously like back then it was like, oh, I think she's afraid of Rudy because he resembles this creature from their myth that puts children away in a hole or something like that, and it's like, no, she's afraid of Rudy because he offered to kill her, and she was like, because at first she was like she wanted to die, but then she saw his eyes and saw that there was like, yeah, in, you know, this time, like his eyes told her that she had more to live because he himself had been in a dark place that he was seeing in her eyes, but he'd found the strength to live, and so she saw that, you know, like, oh, you have more to live for, right? And that's why she changed her mind and decided to live. But then her being afraid of Rudy because like he'd offered to kill her, and in her mind that meant that he would be able to kill her if the need be for some reason, and you know, she became afraid of that, and just, I don't know, getting her perspective was just really enlightening and really cool. I liked it.
It's classic Mushoku Tensei.
Yeah.
Whereas like we finally get the first person perspective of the other character, there's a lot of enlightening things that come about. Yeah. what do I gotta say? The new character is pretty wacky, pretty cool. He really
Oh,
likes
the box maker or the house, the bed maker. Oh God, I just pissed him off in another world.
You just fucking be careful. Don't lock your fucking door, man. And I love the cool moment with Rudius where he's like grabbing his hand and he's like, no matter what happened, like you don't do this to a little girl. Like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Like he's like, oh damn, cooldiest moment.
Yeah.
It's a misunderstanding, but still a cooldiest moment.
But yeah, and obviously Julie, having no desire to run away or be away from the people who've given the most happiness, and the fact that like she came to love the figurines from her interactions with Zanaba, and she's now in the place that she wants to be the most, right? So of course she doesn't want to leave, and it's just really really good. It was good. I liked it. So yeah, and then we have one more chapter after that.
And it's like the setup for next volume. Ooh.
Yeah, and also just like cool, like the resolution, like with Eris's harem, because now she has 2 beast folk to forcibly cuddle with.
I love that, yeah.
And that's
as I am part of Eris's harem with the 2 other, with some animal girls. It's funny, yeah.
And then also Norn's desires she wants to be an adventurer like Paul, and so she has a express desire, which is also interesting because especially because obviously she's been using the sword, she's at the magic school, so I'm sure she's also learning magic, but she doesn't necessarily have the talent that the rest of her family, like so many other people in the household, have, right? So I'm very curious as to where the story is going to go with that because I don't know, it's interesting to think about. So yeah.
Where's Lauren gonna be?
Yeah. And then it ends off with the letter from Sharia and the explanation that fucking Pax is back from his exile and is taken over, and Zanaba needs to go home, and oh shit.
Yeah, he's being first time he's ever looked down at Rudius, or not the first time. Rudius remembers when they
first met. Yeah, and he didn't know he was like, the master.
Yeah, he's like, oh man, I haven't seen this in a while. This is Zanoba whenever he's looking at most other people. Oh, scary.
Yep. There was the little line that mentioned how like Julie was treated poorly by the other students when Zanaba wasn't looking, and I was like, oh, because obviously she can't say anything because she's a slave. She's a lower status than these people. So,
so sad.
Sad.
Yeah. And then the little line she gives where she's like, but you promised you'd hear out my request that I have. Like, well, he's leaving now.
Mm-hmm.
Rip Julie, man. Rip Julie. I feel for
her. Yeah.
But what's gonna happen? Well, you kind of already got spoiled on like Rudius and Roxy are obviously gonna go with him. So
yeah, and I can look at the cover and it's like there's some guy on it that I.
Who do you think that is?
It doesn't look familiar to me, but he's got. Well, I can theorize. I mean, okay, I'll just say it because it's like he has an eye patch, which probably he means he might have a demon eye. That's all I have to say. Or he just lost. It's either that or he lost the eye. But obviously, like
I will tell you, it's a character you know about. That's all. I'll say.
Okay. By appearance, I don't see it, but when I see the name. Oh, there's. Okay. I just had a thought of just like there being like a lot, like when the teleportation incident happened, and we saw a lot of characters in the world, and there's also the. I've been waiting for those fuckers from the Karage chapter to show up. The fried chicken, the armored dragon king, and the whatever the other one. So maybe it's one of them. I don't know. I'll find out.
Yeah, the mad god from that chapter.
Okay. I don't think you would just tell me, so it's probably not that. Because I mean, if I had to, maybe I'll find out.
Well, I mean, I was just saying the name.
The other one,
okay. The final, the big revelation. It's like, oh my god, that's him. What the fuck? What is he doing here? But yeah, no. Yeah, those guys. Yeah, we haven't seen them in a while.
Yep. So okay. Well, I'll find out because that's I don't know. This is the only time I get to speculate is in these newer volumes, so I'm gonna take that opportunity. But I'm not gonna look ahead at the other volumes. I already have, but I won't talk about them because there's no point. I mean, but yeah. Anyway. So yeah, that does it. Not as long as the. I mean, I feel like a lot of the length of this one was also in like comments and even just like talking about like because I don't know, the way the story has expanded after the last reading with the Orsted and the Man God, I think is very like it offers a lot to discuss, even if like so like because I'm just like we're still like a half an hour shy of the last reading, but like even though like we barely talked about the last volume, so
True.
you know, so it's really just like 16 and 17 had a lot, and also like still coming off of the last two. Their last reading rather, so I wonder how the next one's gonna go. So yeah, anyway,
Yeah, it's that.
but yeah,
Talking about. I cannot wait.
yeah, thanks y'all for listening, and we will see you next time.
Bye, guys.